science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion, government, or national security. Brannon brings the issues of the day into clear focus through the lens of a Judeo-Christian worldview. And now, here is your host, Brannon Howe.
And welcome to the broadcast. Glad you are with us tonight. Here we are, Tuesday night, August 11th, 2026. August 11th, 2026. And we have the primaries going on in multiple states tonight, particularly the ones of great interest are that of Minnesota and Wisconsin. We have some DSA candidates running in Minnesota. We have some DSA candidates running in Wisconsin. Perhaps one of the biggest, or two biggest races our audience is watching tonight is that of Mike Lindell and then the lady running for governor on the Democrat Party side in Wisconsin, Mrs. Hong. Well, we have a very large audience that watches us because of our radio network and partnership for 31 years with VCY America that blankets the state of Wisconsin and also now Minnesota. And obviously, we're interested in the state of Wisconsin because we have been going there for many, many years. Some of our biggest rallies and conferences have been held in Wisconsin. And so we will be watching that race tonight and discussing it. And voila, here comes Dolly. Glad you're with us tonight, Dolly. Glad you can make it, hon. And we're also, of course, going to be discussing Minnesota. And that's of great importance to many of you because we have a big listening audience there. But also our friend Mike Lindell is running for governor in Minnesota. The question is tonight, will he pull off an upset? He was endorsed by President Trump no less than 2 times, and some would say as many as 3 times. Let me move that out of the way, Dolly. You're not getting that. They brought me, I won't even say, they brought me my dinner late tonight, which is not a problem. It's been a busy day, and they literally walked in the door and set it off to the side. So maybe during a clip, I'll get a bite to eat here and there. And Dolly, you smelt that, and that's why you're here. I thought you were here saying, hello, Dad. It's been a busy day in the broadcast booth, getting ready, and in the post-production room, pre-production. But no, you're not here to say hello. You're just here to beg for food. But yeah, we'll see what Mike Lindell does. He does not have the GOP endorsement. In fact, the Minnesota GOP chairman came out very strongly against Mr. Mike Lindell. And yet I talked to Mike today, and we'll see how it turns out for Mike. He's promised he'll join us tonight. He promised me. So we'll see about that. He said, just keep calling my phone. Don't text me. Just call, and call again until I answer. I'll gladly give you an interview. So we hope to be joined by none other than Mike Lindell tonight. Now, we are coming on early tonight. I've been off, as you know, for about a week when it comes to Worldview Report and Brandon House Live. I've been doing Worldview Radio, although I was off today for that. I have been doing Worldview Radio, and so I'm going to be back on my normal schedule tomorrow, but we definitely wanted to come on the air tonight. I've been busy working on several books to finish up. Volume 3 of Revelation. I'm just almost done with that one and been on the phone today several times with the printer who has Volume 1 and 2. And then, of course, I'm trying to finish up my new book on Hamas. October 7th comes to America. And then my book on why I'm a Christian Zionist and my book on biblically refuting the false teaching and heresy of Calvinism. So I've been very busy this week. We're going to be joined tonight by Shahram Hadian. We'll also be joined by, I think Annie Cyrus is going to check in if the weather has not interrupted her joining us. She had some very severe threatening weather in her part of the world, but I think she's going to be able to make it. We'll also be joined by none other than Dan Eastman tonight. And of course, Trevor Loudon, our resident expert on the Democrat Socialist of America. I've also pulled some clips for you listening friends tonight. I'm going to go back to 2009 in an interview I did with Larry Grothwald, who has since passed away, who was undercover in Ohio and then for the FBI in the 1970s with the Weather Underground. He talked with me in 2009 about what their goals and objectives were if they took over America. And that included having to take many Americans, tens upon tens upon tens of millions of Americans, into the deserts of the Southwest and set up re-education camps there. I think the number was about 25 million, they thought. We'll see tonight. We played the clip if my memory serves me right. But it was many millions that they believed would not take to the re-education and would have to be terminated. And they sat around with their advanced degrees discussing what they would do with all those bodies. We'll play that clip tonight, Larry Grothwall. Because, folks, if we see these kind of people with the DSA and aligned with the red-green axis, the Marxists and the Islamists getting elected, well, we already know what many of them want to do. What they will do, we don't know. We know what they want to do, some of them by their philosophies and ideas that they have clearly articulated over the years. So we'll get to some of that. We also have a clip to play tonight where I asked Trevor Loudon from this very news desk a few years ago to tell us more about the Democrat Socialists of America. Again, many of them on the ticket, the ballot tonight. Let's go to the computer because I just asked Worldviewpedia, our brand new launched after more than a year, our brand new launched research assistant that is archived and quarantined so it cannot be corrupted. It's only our data. What we put in is what you get out. No woke cultural Marxism here. I asked it, what is the Democrat Socialists of America? Who is this group? And here we go. Look at what it spit out. The Democrat Socialists of America, based on the available information from WorldviewTube. Here is a comprehensive overview of the DSA. DSA is a hardcore Marxist organization that, despite its innocuous sounding name, operates as a highly influential political force in America. Its name allows it to work in ways and places that more openly communist organizations like the Communist Party USA cannot. The DSA was founded out of two organizations, the Democrat Socialist Organizing Committee, run by Michael Harrington, a socialist who notably wrote L.B. Johnson's blueprint for the Great Society, the massive welfare expansion of the early 1960s. The New American Movement was the next one. DSA has grown dramatically, starting with about 6,000 to 8,000 members, grew to 60,000 members, now boasts over 100,000 to 120,000 members, and 250 plus elected officials as of 2025, 2026. According to Brandon House Live, broadcasting featuring Trevor Loudon, it has normal alliances with the Communist Party and significant cross memberships. In many areas, the DSA is considered more left-wing than the Communist Party. It has infiltrated the Democratic Party at every level, from local committees to Congress. It has 200-plus locals across the country. It federalizes elections by flooding local races with volunteers from across the nation, overwhelming traditional Democratic Party volunteers. It deliberately targets middle-class youth who are discouraged by student debt and lack of economic opportunity, knowing that attracting the middle class is key to carrying out a revolution. Elected officials with the DSA ties have included Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar, who is running for governor on the Democrat side against Mike Lindell and team, Tulsi Gabbard, and Devil Patrick. Most DSA elected officials currently serve at the local level, but they are increasingly winning state and federal elections. And what are my citations? Notice there, citations, there you go. And what does it pull up, folks? It starts pulling up for you video clips, the actual programs that you can watch that detail what it is we're talking about. So you can do a lot more research. And then, of course, you can type in another question. That just launched last week, Worldviewpedia, your biblical worldview research assistant. You might try it out. It's the bottom of the screen, right-hand corner at WorldviewTube. Get a premium membership and join and get access to the world's, I think, premier biblical worldview and Bible prophecy software, and then access to 36 years of radio shows, TV shows, ebooks, audiobooks, conference DVDs, and more. By the way, Brainwashed America Part 3 just came out a few weeks ago. It is only available for members of the Vault. And Part 4, I was on the phone quite a bit today with Jeb, who's at his location, post-editing Brainwashed America Part 4. That should be out in the next few weeks, and that part in series will be done. And we'll be moving on to new documentaries for Vault members only. Let's see. Oh, and by the way, maybe we should get Jeb. Somebody warned Jeb that I'd like to get Jeb on the program for a minute or two. Because Jeb said, Mr. B, this new Worldviewpedia is making it so much better for me to post-edit your documentaries. I write the scripts. I do the research. After I write the scripts for him, I sit at the desk here. I do all the narration. Then I turn it over to him and I tell him what it is I'm looking for, what clips I'm looking for, whatnot. And sometimes he's like, well, how do I find these clips? I'm like, I don't know. It's in our 36-year library. Good luck, because I don't have time to sit and dig through it. Well, he called me today and he said, this new Worldviewpedia is making my job so much easier. I wish I had it a few months ago for Part 3. because I'm able to find these parts and clips and interviews so fast. I'm like, that's exactly why we created it for ourselves. And we just gave you the benefit of actually being able to access it as well. So I was pretty excited to hear from one of our own team members using it, to the end of which we created it, even though it took over a year and about $100,000. And it is going to serve us well and help us crank out a lot of documentaries. So we're very excited about that. All right. Joining me now is Shahram Hadian. Annie Cyrus, Shahram Hadian, Trevor Loudon, Mike Lindell, Dan Eastman. Got quite the lineup tonight. We'll also be dipping in and out of the watch party for Mike Lindell. Have you guys, by the way, found that footage, the live footage of the watch party? Yep. Yeah, Logan can tell you where it's at. And so we'll be dipping in and out of the watch party for Mike Lindell tonight out of Minnesota. Joining me now is Shahram Hadian. Shahram, welcome to the broadcast. Thank you for being with us. By the way, Shahram, we need everybody to tweet, text, email, Facebook, Getter, Truth Social. Let them know that we are on. We are on right now, early. No Worldview Report tonight, going right to special coverage of election primary night, August 11th. This is a big week, by the way, folks. And perhaps you don't know how big of a week it is. It's a big week because of the primaries. It's a big week because it's going to be near or 100 or more every day this week here in the Mid-South. So it is going to be hot. Hopefully we don't have any rolling blackouts or brownouts. And then we have the FedEx tournament. What do they call that thing? The FedEx St. Jude Classic. And every hotel in town is sold out. We tried getting a hotel today for our reporter on the ground in Israel, who's here in the U.S. and coming back to be in studio with us Wednesday and Thursday. I tried getting him a room tonight. And every hotel in town, Shahram, was sold out. And the one that was available said, yeah, for 3 nights, $2,600. And these were not like, wow. It wasn't like going to the Peabody, okay? This was like your standard Hampton type hotel, Hampton Inn, what I can't remember which one it was, but Logan told me he was the one booking it. And I'm like, $2,600? Are you out of your mind? What's going on? What's going on in town? And we found out it is the FedEx Forum golf tournament that is very popular. And guess what else it coincides with this week? What else could be going on in the Mid-South, the heart of Memphis, Tennessee, the week of August 11th today through, let's say, Saturday the 15th? What could possibly? That's a Jeopardy question. I feel like the Jeopardy music should play. Does anybody know, aside from me, what could possibly be going on in the week of August 11th through the 15th in Memphis, Tennessee this week? What could possibly be going on? Some of you are going like the dude from Mr. Cotta. Ooh, me. What was that guy's name? What was that guy's name from the Sweat Hogs?
Dr. Carter?
Yeah, Dr. Carter. What was the little guy's name that was always doing that? I can't remember his name.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, you have to trivia that one for me, guys. Anyway, I can see a lot of you have your hands up because you already know. I'm just going to have to tell Shahram and the rest of you that don't. The St. Jude golf tournament, which takes up a lot of hotels, collided with none other than Elvis Week this week because Elvis Presley died. I think it was, and I better not get this one wrong. Double check me, Thomas. I think it was on August 14th, 1977.
Arnold Horshack, by the way.
Arnold Horshack. Oh, Mr. Cotta, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of you were doing because some of you knew it was Elvis Week because you know the date. August 14th, 1977, if I remember correctly.
It is Elvis Week.
Elvis Week in Memphis. It'll be packed. And I hate to say it, some people could possibly be... Oh, the 16th. Oh, I'm sorry. So it'll start in earnest this week and run through Sunday. So yeah, they show. Oh man, the 16th. I should have known that. I was close though. You know what? Some people are probably going to be prone to getting sick and having a heat stroke in 100-degree Memphis humidity of 75%. It's ridiculous. But anyway, we did secure a hotel room finally for Aaron, so that's good. All right.
I was going to say maybe a tent in the backyard or something.
Yeah.
Poor Aaron.
Yeah, I know. I said, I wonder if he minds sleeping on an air mattress somewhere. Anyway, we got it all. The Lord provided. All right, big night tonight. You're our first guest up. You can stay as long as you want, Shahram. What do you make of this? Democratic Socialists of America candidates running, particularly tonight in Minnesota and in Wisconsin. We have a few other states we'll mention, but those are the ones we're really watching right now, Shahram.
Brandon, I without sounding, I don't know, maybe this is going to be too grandiose. Maybe this is going to be too much of a statement. But I think what happened last week and what's happening tonight in these, because listen, we're talking about last week in Michigan, we're talking about Wisconsin, we're talking about Minnesota. These are the swing states, right? So these are not the far left states, California, Oregon, Washington, that are securely, Illinois, that are securely in the left's hands. These are the swing states. And what we're watching, what we're seeing, Brandon, I think has the potential to shape the next 20, 30 years of politics in this country, of whether our republic remains for much longer, because you are watching a systematic takeover of what, quote, is the left. And the takeover, as you just pointed out in your introduction, and going back to all the history that you've covered, is full-blown communism merged now with Islam. So again, without sounding maybe too extreme, I think this is going to shape the next 20, 30, 40 years of America. I don't think this is something that's a fad. I said this today on my show. I said, I don't think this is something that's how sometimes we're on a pendulum and you kind of swing a little bit this way and you kind of go a little bit this way. I don't feel in my spirit that's what it is. I think this is shifting. I think, the cup of iniquity, so to speak, for America is flowing over very quickly.
Well, I agree. The primaries tonight are in South Carolina, Vermont, Alabama, Connecticut, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. We're going to get with Trevor Loudon tonight to talk about the lieutenant governor of Minnesota who's running for the U.S. Senate, Peggy Flanagan, who is tied back to the whole Paul Wellstone camp. Those of you who remember Paul Wellstone, who was about as liberal as they come, who was U.S. Senator from Minnesota. He tragically died in a plane crash. But his movement and his organization still lives on. All right, let's talk about a little bit more here as you guys tweet, text, email, Facebook, Getter, Truth Social. Let everybody know we are on here at 7:19 Central, 8:19 Eastern Standard Time. A special election primary coverage tonight at Worldview Tube. Get them all over here. They're normally waiting for Brandon House Live to start at 7:30, but we went on at 7 because I didn't have time to deal with recording a Worldview report tonight and getting that all ready and edited. So there we go. Shahram, I said earlier this week that if it was not for the Marxists in America, the Islamists would be making no headway in this country as they are. You agree?
Agreed. Absolutely. Look, the Muslim movement in more recent history, Brandon, as you know, they started their own political party in 2015, the Muslim Brotherhood with the USCMO. They've been running candidates, but they have not been seeing this level of success between last year. Again, we talked about this on radio yesterday, between last year's victories, between these candidates. It is because they have hitched their wagon to the DSA, to the Democrat Socialists of America. It is because of the fact that they have now fully embraced this merger of this red and green. And what we have been warning about for 2 decades, 15 years, how long? Many, many years, this alliance. And now they not only have the messaging, since the Muslims are vehemently anti-Israel, anti-Jewish, and that feeds in that far left, radical camp. But now they have the finances, the ground game. They've taken over so many aspects of the Democrat Party. And like you said, they are now seeing the outcome. And that's what's obviously, I mean, this has come to fruition. I mean, what you've been warning about, what we've been warning about is now coming to fruition, unfortunately, right before our eyes. And you're absolutely right. Without one, there would be not the other right now. But that's the tactic, right? They piggyback off of that until they get enough power, and then they'll flip. Somebody should be writing a note right now to all these leftist Marxist DSAers and letting them know, just wait 5 years, just wait, 5-10 years, not even 10 years, 5 years, and watch how these Muslims will betray you, and then give us a call if we're still around to let us know that we were right.
Well, President Trump has found his voice again, thankfully, when it comes to Islam. He was quite blunt during his first term, has gone kind of soft on us, calling guys like Mamdani nice-looking guys, good guys, et cetera, et cetera. The leader of Syria, all these guys. But now he's finally found his voice tonight to say that Trump outrages leftist. It's dated August 12th for tomorrow, but it's out today, as you can see. Trump outrages leftists again by calling Muslim Democrat candidates jihadists. But is he wrong, writes Robert Spencer, who, by the way, will be my guest tomorrow at 1 o'clock Central, for radio and TV at 1 o'clock Central at worldviewtube.com. No, he's not wrong, but President Trump, I hope he realizes we really could have used him talking like this a few months ago, not the day of the primaries.
Absolutely, because, just think about Mamdani's victory and now El Sayed's primary victory, which, again, unless there's the two things have to happen in Michigan. The Republicans have to have a massive voter turnout, on an off presidential year for Mike Rogers to take that seat. And number two, they have to be able to stop the cheating that is going on. I mean, you have Dana Nessel, who was the Secretary of State, who's now running for governor in Michigan. So they're the election apparatus, and you have their lesbian, or I'm sorry, Dana Nessel, I think, is the Attorney General. I'm thinking about the gal that is running for governor, who was the Secretary of State. Why am I blanking on her name? I'll get it in a minute. But anyway, so that race, Mamdani, the people that Mamdani's election has not been able to advocate, right? They've already gotten Hamawi in New Jersey. They got Chevalier now in New York. They picked up Milat Kiros. That's probably going to win in Colorado. They've already picked up 4 to 5 additional seats in the Congress, let alone now what could happen in the U.S. Senate with Abdul El-Sayed. So, how about last year? How about before the elections last year, when he was calling Mamdani a Marxist or whatever, socialist, communist? I don't think he was calling him a communist. I think he was calling him a Marxist, but he wouldn't come out and say this guy is a Muslim jihadist. And, like you said, praise God, he said it now, but we needed you last year, Mr. President. We needed you. We need you badly. We need you badly.
Indeed. Let's go to a little clip with Trevor Loudon. You guys got that in the control room? Here's a clip with my interviewing from this desk, Trevor Loudon, a few years ago on the DSA, what they're really all about. Trevor will be joining us at around 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 Eastern. Dan Eastman will be joining us as well, Annie Cyrus. We've been told, Mike told me today, he would gladly come on, so we hope to get a hold of Mike. We'll be dipping into his watch party real soon. Watch a little clip from my interviewing Trevor Loudon on the Democrat Socialists of America. Many of their candidates, including, of course, the one we're really watching, the one running for the Democrat gubernatorial spot in Wisconsin. Watch what Trevor Loudon says about the DSA. Watch this.
They might have the name Democratic in their name, but so does Kim Il-jung's regime.
That's right.
So it shows how
ignorant
someone is. Democratic Socialist America is one of the most subversive organizations in the country, one of the most dangerous. They have nearly 100,000 members and 6 members of Congress, multiple city councillors around the place, school board members, whatever. They're very, very dangerous.
What year were they founded?
They were founded in 1982. But while they were founded in 1973 as the Democratic Socialist Organizing Committee, then they joined up with a group called the New American Movement. It doesn't sound great. The New American Movement. New American Movement was the old SDS, the Students for Democratic Society, which begat the Weatherman terrorist group and former members of the Communist Party USA, called the New American Movement. Sounds so patriotic. So DSOC, Democratic Socialist Organizing Committee, joined up with the New American Movement in 1982 to form Democratic Socialists of America. It's a communist organization, militantly communist, but the FBI think it's okay because it's got Democratic in its name. Well, you know, the New American Movement was a communist group, but it's got America in its name, so it must be all right.
Yeah. Wow. American Civil Liberties Union has America in its name. It was founded by an avowed communist by the name of Roger Baldwin, who admitted he traveled the Soviet and communist road to get where he is.
Well, they always use, like, the communist...
In fact, he's the one that said, we'll wrap ourselves in the flag and quote the founding fathers while we destroy the country.
Well, exactly. You know, in the 1930s, all the American communists who went to Spain to fight for the communists in Spain called themselves the Abraham Lincoln Brigade. You know?
My guest is Trevor Loudon. We're just laying the foundation for his book, Security Risk Senators, Part 1 and Part 2. Folks, we're just laying the foundation of how is it that these people get trained in their communist worldview, and then how do they penetrate? Well, we're telling you how the FBI, the CIA, helps put them into power, doesn't investigate them, doesn't cover them. The media helps give cover for them. Our educational system indoctrinates them. Then they get funding from all of these organizations we've been talking about. We're just laying the foundation for how it is they get where they are and become security risk. Trevor Loudon, author of the book, Security Risk Senators, 15 subversive lawmakers exposed in each of the books, Part 1 and Part 2. You can get a personally autographed copy of his book at trevorloudon.com. We got it on the screen, so you spell the name right, trevorloudon.com. Now, before we go back to our interview, let me remind you, if you appreciate what we're doing here, folks, by the way, has Fox News given you 3, 4 one-hour interviews?
No.
Really?
No, I'm surprised. I'm shocked.
Newsmax?
No.
Huh.
So you have, Brandon, and I appreciate that.
So if you appreciate what we're doing here, folks, please understand we're one of the only outlets that do this. We fly folks in, we give them an honorarium worthy of their time, we put them up in hotels, we fly them back home, and we have a lot of guests we do this with. You know, we could do all of this by Skype, but frankly, we believe when we do these long format interviews, and do multiple hours, it's just much better to have them in person. They're more personable. We get more covered. They're just more professionally produced as well. So again, if you appreciate all we're doing, the bandwidth to give this programming away, all we're doing, we need your support. Let me remind you a couple ways you can support us. One, go to mypillow.com. Christmas is coming. Do your shopping there, please. mypillow.com. But please, all right, let's stop right there. We'll come back in.
We get credit.
All right, let's come back in. So that was just a few years ago with Trevor Loudon, who'll be with us later tonight, describing this group, the DSA. All right, Shahram, what do you, if you had to guess, I'm going to go ahead and say, I believe Mrs. Hong, even though I think she's very, very wrong in her views, she will win tonight. She will win the Democrat gubernatorial primary in the state of Wisconsin. You agree?
I agree. Absolutely.
I mean, she's just, her poll numbers, I mean, I don't know how she couldn't win at this point, right?
Yeah. And as such, then the question turns to the general election, correct? Which is that what are the chances of her then winning the general against their candidate? I had heard that it was going to be Tom Tiffany, the one that is supposed to be the front runner on the Republican side. Again, as I just said earlier, Brandon, these are swing states, right? We're talking about states that Trump won and then, supposedly lost in 2020. But we're talking margins that are 10, 15,000. You saw it in Michigan with Abdul El-Sayed, right? Statewide election, he won by under 15,000 votes. Again, if that precluded supposedly any fraudulent ballots, any cheating, anything like that. So I think you're absolutely right. I think Hong is going to win, which is, again, remarkable that someone like her even has a chance. I mean, outside of Madison, right? Outside of Madison and maybe Milwaukee, you've been to Wisconsin many times. I've been to Wisconsin many times. The majority of the outer areas are rural, conservative. this is shocking.
And I would say the same is true for Minnesota. Other than Duluth, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Rochester, and there are, of course, conservatives in all those pockets, but the liberals dominate in Duluth, St. Paul, Minneapolis, and in Rochester. So for those who know the state, Duluth is north, St. Paul, Minneapolis is the center of the state, and then Rochester in the southern part of the state. So, but you take the rest of the state, and it's a super conservative area, very lots of Catholics, lots of Lutherans, lots of evangelicals, lots of evangelical free churches, a lot of Bible churches. It's, and then aside from the churches, you just have, people that are very down to earth, salt of the earth, workers that are not communists. They're not interested in being socialists.
But they're not voting.
A lot of them aren't.
But they're not voting. And that's the problem is, again, we look at the fact that the majority of these churches, particularly as you mentioned, and I've been to probably all four corners of Minnesota over the last 10 years. The majority, like you said, hardworking culture, deep culture. You have 300-400 years of history for many of these people with their families, but they don't vote. And so what is right now, and Trevor laid it out. It's incredible. That was, how far ago was that interview?
You guys know what year that was? I'm going to say it had to be around 2018, 2019, but he'll look and tell me.
Wow. But even that, if that was 8 years ago, and you guys hit the nail on the head about what was happening 8 years ago.
I bet it was 2020. I bet it was 2020 because of the studio we were in down the hall. 2022. Okay. I should have known it was later because the Capitol room wasn't around in 18 or 19, but okay. Wow. So 2022, but still 4 years ago.
4 years ago. And the prediction and what's happening now. When I first saw that interview, I thought, was that like last week? Like, did you do that interview last week? Because of what you were predicting and what was.
And how many people do you think watched that and thought those kind of candidates will never win in America?
Exactly. The majority think it's not going to happen. And now look at what they're doing in real time on the ground. They have the machine. And again, they get their voter turnout. They have all their ballot harvesting. They have their. I'm not going to preclude, that there is some fraudulent. By the way, it was Jocelyn Benson. Sorry about earlier. I had a brain freeze. I was thinking about the Secretary of State in Michigan, Jocelyn Benson, who is now running for governor. In fact, I think she just won the primary for the governor last week. Yeah, last week, exactly, with Abdul Sayed. So, but they're the apparatus. She was the Secretary of State. I mean, all the voting has gone through her, and nobody would believe this until it happens. Yep. And then when it happens, it's too late. That's why I started by saying tonight, I think this is shaping the next 30 or 40 years. I don't know how we come back. They shouldn't be getting this type of support, but they are, which tells you what has happened in our schools, what has happened in our college and universities. It shows you the level of indoctrination. And what you said on radio yesterday, it shows you the absolute disdain and distrust for the political establishment and our very form of government that is now festering on both sides of the political parties.
100%. Shahram Hadian's with TILministry.com, TILministry.com. Thank you for sitting in for me the other night. Hold right there, Shahram. Don't go anywhere. Shahram's going to be coming back. We'll be joined in just one moment by Annie Cyrus. And we're also going to be joined at 8 o'clock in about 25 minutes by Trevor Loudon live. And then Dan Eastman from the state of Wisconsin. We'll be dipping into the watch party with Mike Lindell. I talked to Mike today, and he said, look, I will do my very best to join you. Just blow my phone up until I answer. So we're going to do that tonight a little bit later in the broadcast. But here is a clip from Lindell TV, by the way, which I co-founded with Mike Lindell and ran for 3 years. And then we said, you know what? We're going to turn our attention 100% back to Worldview Tube. And they keep going. And we're happy they're doing very well over there. And yet one of their reporters followed Mike Lindell to vote today. Watch this.
How is that? No ID whatsoever. You stick the paper into the machine and it's gone. I have no record of who I voted for. I have no record. They have no record of my ID. I've never seen anything like it. This is worse than I thought. And I believe we have in Minnesota where you can just vouch for 8 other people. Come on in. Yeah. We should have tried that today, Come on in,
Yeah. I actually read that because I was wondering if I could cast a vote today.
Right.
It seems like I would have easily been able to have gotten away with it if I wanted to. You vouched for me, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very surprised, though. I thought it's worse than I thought. I mean, to take that, no ID. Did that shock you? I mean, I'm
from California where they do that too. But it is shocking. I mean, it should be a federal law that an ID is required.
Guys, we need to pass the Save America Act. We have to. You have to be a citizen to vote. Anybody could have walked in there and just gave them. And then he asked where I lived. I'm going, okay. What if I didn't have an address? Oh, no problem. No, I don't know about that. But what surprised me is you don't even get a paper copy of what you voted. You just goes into the tabulators and it's gone. So this is the thing that I'm going to do in the general election. What I'm going to do is encourage everybody. I set it up for the last election. I think it was the 2025, and we did it in 2024 in areas where everybody would request their mail-in ballot, but then not use it. Okay, and then come the day of, and if they say you've already voted, there's a problem because you go, no, here's my mail-in ballot, and this is a way we caught a lot of states or a lot of places where they had voted for people that, especially California, we had California, but this is a big problem, and just so everybody knows, tonight we do have all hands on deck. We are watching every part of this election and our elections across the country. We have my teams are both there in the cyber world watching. Then we got Mike Lindell in the cyber world. We've been living in that world for a long time now. But everything goes through a company called Edison Research.
All right, so we'll stop it right there. Mike Lindell hopefully will be joining us a little bit later tonight as we watch his race. But joining us now, hopefully, are a lot of you. If you've tuned in, we started at 7 Central tonight. We preempted Worldview Report to come and bring you special August 11th. October will be here before you know it, though. August 11th, 2026 primary coverage, election night in primaries across the country, particularly in places like South Carolina, Vermont, Minnesota, Wisconsin, South Carolina, if I didn't mention that. So Alabama. So there we go. We'll be covering all those. So tweet, text, email, Facebook, Getter, True Social. Let folks know that we are here, we're on, and we're covering it. We'll be joined in just a moment by Annie Cyrus. Then we'll be joined by Trevor Loudon, and we'll also be joined by Dan Eastman out of the state of Wisconsin. Joining me now, however, is Annie Cyrus. Annie, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Brandon.
All right, Annie, we talked a little bit with Shahram about the red-green axis tonight already, and that I said if it wasn't for the DSA, Democrat Socialists of America, the Communist Party USA, although their influence isn't nearly what it was compared to now the DSA, if it wasn't for these progressives, whether they belong to the DSA or not, if they align themselves with that Marxist, socialist, cultural Marxist ideology, the Islamists would not be making the headway they're making. That's, I know, your area of expertise, born and raised in Iran, expert on Islam. You would agree with that statement, correct?
I don't know if I would agree with it, because I actually think of it the other way.
You really do?
Yes, especially because I just finished a serious research on follow the money.
But it's the progressives that have allowed for these liberal voting rules. It's the progressives and the socialists that have allowed for our voting system to turn this way, along with the rhinos. But I mean, if it's the progressives that loaded up our schools and universities with this ideology and political correctness and Islamophobia. I mean, they're the ones that have been destroying our own house with our own hands, as the Muslim Brotherhood said in their 1990s Muslim explanatorium. I mean, if it wasn't for the progressives, the Muslims would have had no chance. If we had been educating our kids like we should, the Muslims wouldn't have stand a chance. But the progressives have been running our educational system since at least the 1930s.
That is absolutely correct. Yes. Where I'm coming from is two things. One, it's that thing of, who handed them the weapon, Islamists. Also, who's funding it? Islamists. In a way, it feels like they're equally, like one couldn't without the other. I guess I should agree with that. They're both equally playing a role.
But I guess what I'm saying is the foundation was laid by the progressives, the Marxists, the progressives, the cultural Marxists, the Frankfurt School. They laid the foundation with multiculturalism and tolerance and diversity and ecumenicalism and pluralism.
Shame and guilt.
Yep. White privilege, toxic masculinity, and that you can't say anything. You're not supposed to disagree with anybody. You can't be judgmental if you say, well, Islam, I'm sorry, is a religious system that's not compatible with America. They allowed this culture that gave this opportunity. I mean, when I was growing up and I born in Jackson, Mississippi, moved to Virginia, lived outside of D.C. for 8 years as a child. About the time I turned 12, we moved to Minneapolis, St. Paul, suburb of St. Paul. Annie, I went to the opening of the Mall of America. I saw video clips the other day of opening of the Mall of America in the early 90s. Melissa and I were married at the time. We went all the time. We loved the Mall of America. It was about 20 minutes from where we lived. It was in Bloomington, across from the airport, still is. It was Minnesota. It was like going to the Minnesota State Fair, except minus the smell of corn dogs and the great donuts they used to make there. It was about as wholesome in Minnesota as you could get. The humongous 80 football fields, roller coaster inside. And now I see a video footage of it, and it literally looks like Somalia. Okay, that was not going on when I lived there. And who allowed for that? These doggone Democrat socialists, the Democrat, what is it, DFL, Democrat Farm Labor Party, for Pete's sake. That's who allowed for this in Minnesota.
Yes, and as you also hinted in your first sentence, well, not me and you, but, parents who decided to let the schools educate their kids, parents who preferred handing over a device where the kid can scroll through social media and get their education there, and the Republicans who refuse to believe that Republican Party is no better at the given moment. I mean, I don't know if you started tracking Dalia El-Aridi and Ahmad Hassan in Minnesota, both running at Republicans. They're both Republican candidates, one running for, I think, 5th District of Congress District, and then Ahmad Hassan is running for U.S. Senate seat. Republican, but Muslims. And Dalia is actually openly, pretty much Islamist.
Mm-hmm. By the way, would you like to see what the Mall of America looked like the year that it opened in 1992? I mean, we watched it being built. It was right across from the airport when I'm flying in and out. I mean, I used to go to events at the old Met Stadium. They had a baseball stadium out there, the Met Stadium. Then they had look it up for me. Then they had an indoor place. Was it called the Met 2? The Met? Look that up. There was the Met Stadium where the Twins played. And then there was another indoor arena right next to it where they would have concerts and rodeos and conferences. With us events there. Yeah, it was in Bloomington back in the 70s and 80s. The Met. What was it called? In Bloomington. The Met Center. What was it called? Separate from the Met Stadium. But anyway, all that got mowed down to build the Mall of America. And we watched it for years, because we talked about we knew the funding was coming. I think it was a group out of Canada who was working in part with it. And everyone was talking about 88 football fields. People were saying it'll flop. It was the Met Center. Thank you. Yeah. And then, of course, you had, what year did they tear down the Met Stadium where the Twins played? I think the Vikings played, and then they built the Dome. That had to have been early 80s. I guess they tore that down. The Dome opened in the early 80s, I think. They don't even use that. That's gone now. But people are saying, can the Mall of America even make it? 88 football fields. People are saying nobody will walk that much. They won't. Not only did it make it, they expanded it. It ended up becoming huge. I was there. I want to show you what it looked like the opening day week compared to what it looks like today. This is what I'm talking about, folks. Watch this opening. This is America.
The bargains are coming. The bargains are coming. Hear ye, hear ye.
The mother of all shopping crowds was waiting as the doors opened. Yes, shop till you drop. We are professional shoppers.
By noon, the 2 parking ramps were filled with 13,000 cars, and that sent the mall's war room into action.
We were able to divert to off-site parking properly and efficiently and effectively within 5 minutes.
There was congestion on the roads, but the plan seemed to work. Meanwhile, the traffic jam continued inside the mall. It took almost an hour to get on some of the most popular amusement rides, and the wait continued in the food line.
Well, I placed an order at about 1:27 and got the food about 2:20.
Mall officials say the delays were due in part to a green workforce.
And by the way, believe it or not, I have been down that flume ride. I don't do that kind of stuff anymore, but I have been down that flume ride. I mean, a humongous indoor roller coaster.
You sure got a variety. You can buy anything you want, I guess.
This place has over 300 stores, some very specialized. Just what this doctor ordered.
And I found a book that I've not been able to find anywhere else, Human Anatomy by an illustrator.
Some people came just to look. This California man says he likes taking pictures of cultural icons.
And this is really one of them. This is a high water mark of...
Yeah, and how did it end, folks? That was 1992. Would you like to see what the Mall of America looks like? I can vouch for it. I went back, stayed the night there before we went on to Sioux Falls, South Dakota in April of 2017. Remember, that's where a gunman from Saudi Arabia came into our conference? Well, the night before, I spent the night in Bloomington with our family, and we all, Melissa and I and the kids, went to the Mall of America, and we were shocked. And this is kind of what we saw that day as well. We'll do without the music. That's irritating as sin. But look at that. Look at that, my friends. There you go. That is something we see on social media quite a bit, actually. And this is not Minnesota anymore. I mean, I couldn't believe it. The burqas everywhere. And that's, of course, thanks to the Democrat, farm labor, and communist, socialist progressives in Minnesota. They destroyed their state. They at least destroyed the Twin Cities. So there you go. Annie?
Isn't this also the same mall that back in, I want to say 22 or 23, they attacked a giant Christmas tree, tried to break it and take it down because it was offensive?
I don't remember that, but I will take your word for it. I don't doubt it.
I'm sure if the guys in control room look up it is the Mall of America, right? Or
yep,
America
Mall of America.
Yeah.
Yep.
I remember covering it on my show, saying that now they're superior in numbers, so it's offensive. Then they will break it and shatter it.
There were claims, but it wasn't confirmed, huh? That's how they do it. That story, I guess. There were claims.
Of course, there were claims.
We are about, what would we say here, 11 minutes to 8 o'clock Central, 9 Eastern. We ought to start seeing some polls close. Can someone check? Do the polls close at 8 o'clock in the Twin Cities? Or the whole state? 8 p.m. They close at 8 p.m. So we should start seeing some numbers here in the next 11 minutes. That's for sure. Okay, Annie, President Trump, I shared this with Shahram. He came out, I guess now, I wish he'd done this several weeks ago, and he said that the Democrats, he's calling Muslim Democrat candidates jihadists. This is the way he was talking in 2016 that was so appealing to people like you and me. And then he kind of stopped doing that. Now he's back. But it should have been nice. Sure would have been nice if he did this several months ago, not just in the last day or so. Yesterday, actually. Annie?
Yes. But I say, months ago, he should have done that.
Yep.
And also, he should have get his administration to pull some of the names off the ballots, including, again, I will repeat this until I'm blue in the face, including the translator of the blind sheikh. His name should have never made it to the ballot. But I would like to hear him call all of them.
And tell our audience who it is you're referring to when you say that, the translator for the blind sheikh or sheikh.
Oh, I don't know the district, but he just won the primary, not just a few weeks ago. He won the primary for U.S. Congress in New Jersey, and he is supposedly, all you hear about him is how he has served in our military. He's a doctor, a surgeon who has served in Gaza, saving lives. But one thing you barely hear is during his youth, he was the translator to the blind sheikh, who was the mastermind behind, well, most people talk about the 1993 bombing, but that was also the blueprint for September 11th, who was convicted in America. And Mr. Hamway was a witness for the sheikh. He went up against our system and testified in the court trying to cover up for the blind sheikh. And now he won the primary. His name should have never made it into the ballot. And I refuse to believe there is not a single law in this country that Congress or Senate or somebody could use to disqualify this man from running. I literally, right now, there are videos of him at this age, to this day, defending the sheikh by saying he didn't always talk about violence or jihad. He's still defending the man, who's dead, by the way. He died in prison. But he's still defending the blind sheikh. And he's about to become the next jihadist Muslim congressman in America.
Polymarkets is giving Mike Lindell a 28% chance of winning tonight. Well, I wouldn't count him out yet, folks. We'll see what the results have. And then as far as the DSA candidate, Francesca Hong, the Polymarket has her at a 96% chance of winning tonight. Imagine that. What will that mean for Wisconsin, not only from a Marxist side, but what will it mean to your thoughts, Annie? Then when I bring Shahram back in and ask him, what do you think this will mean for the advancement of Islam in Wisconsin?
Well, let me try here. I have said since 2018, when I had my last event in Wisconsin, back then I said I give Wisconsin 3 years to be conquered. And I do believe it's already conquered. But when they have their allies on the red side in offices, then it becomes public. Meaning you're going to see what you see in Minnesota and in Michigan taking place in Wisconsin. I guess the good news is, your event is before they're all sworn in. So they don't have the power to make all the legal changes they need to do to ban you from going to Wisconsin. I'm not being sarcastic, by the way. I know it's hard to tell sometimes. I don't even know when I'm kidding. But no, this one I'm serious. Wisconsin will be the state that people like me, you, and Shahram will not be welcomed easily.
What does that mean? Describe how that works out.
Well, I'm sure Shahram can speak to that way better than I do because he still does go to Minnesota. But I personally, it's been a while that I try to avoid Minnesota for the fact that I've been given warning that I will be arrested. Right after Pastor Parsa was arrested in Minnesota in the mall for offending two hijab, very Muslim women because he was standing preaching the gospel to someone else. They literally put him in handcuffs, took him in, and then released him, telling him to leave the state. I've been getting the same types of warnings from the government of Minnesota. And also, of course, there are the bomb threats at the last event I had in Minnesota where we had a bomb threat on the church. Wisconsin's going to become one of those states where me, you, Shahram, and people like us could either be arrested by the government of the state or the Muslims have enough power to, come into our events with their AR-15s, I think, or something that they came to your event and just start shooting.
He had them in the car. He showed up with guns on his person, but he had them in his car. He flashed them, showed them.
But that's the thing. My last event in 2018 in Wisconsin, my front table was literally reserved all by Muslims, 5 of them. And the lady right in the very front who thought she can intimidate me to not talking is still one of the local representatives there.
Let's bring Shahram back in. Shahram, what are your thoughts? What would a Hong governor mean for Wisconsin if she wins the primary tonight? And they're saying Polymarket's 96% chance she will. We'll see. If that's the case, you've heard Annie. What do you think is the future for the state of Wisconsin, a state that you and I love? We have been there so many times. I've been going there and speaking for 31 plus years, going through the state for I don't know how many, but actually speaking as a speaker for 30 plus years. and having great turnouts. What do you think this will mean for people like you and I and Annie and others? Shahram, Usama, Dakdok, others like that.
Well, if I could just address, you said, what does it mean for the state first? Look, I was just there in May. They just lost their Supreme Court tipped towards the left. So if you have a governor like Honk, who is a, DSAer, she ran on, no prisons, no police, no ICE, full on. I mean, this is a full on communist manifesto as far as I'm concerned, just like with what Trevor mentioned earlier. So as governor, she's going to, the governors they've had, even with the governor they have now as a Democrat, because the Republicans have control over their legislature currently, you got to kind of play the game. She's going to push everything further left. And then what I think you see in Wisconsin, I mean, obviously we had in places like Minnesota, because Wisconsin is such a tale of two states, isn't it? I mean, Western Wisconsin, so rural, so conservative for the most part. Then you got, as I said earlier, Madison, you got Green Bay, Wisconsin over there on the east side. And look, Milwaukee, Hassan Piker was just at her rally, right? Hassan Piker had a rally with her Hong, and Ilhan Omar came in and endorsed her. So you're talking about, again, this left-right elite, alliance and allegiance. Milwaukee has been a hotbed, according to Hassan Piker himself. He's like, communism, Milwaukee is one of the birthplaces of communism, according to him, in the United States. So I think Annie is right that it does make it much more difficult for us to speak. And what is really the future? The future is Dearborn. The future is Hamtramck. The future is where those places where the Muslims, not only will it not protect us, Brandon, like what happened in Bloomington when you had to cancel the event that we were going to be speaking at because the police department, the sheriff's department said, we're not going to protect you from all these threats that are coming against you by the mosque there in Bloomington. They said
you better have a lot of police there, and the hotel, to their credit, right there in front of the Mall of America. They said, we're not going to cancel you. We don't think that's right. You have a contract, but we are going to require you have at least 5 police officers.
Yeah, basically saying we are not going to protect you. You have to protect yourself. So that's kind of the next phase that we see, to Annie's point. And then finally, the phase that you see is what happened in Dearborn, where someone like, Jake Langdo, I don't agree with his tactics, gets pelted in the head with rocks, chased down into a police car, one female police officer with a Muslim mob after him because he's out there with a sign saying, Jesus is Lord over Dearborn. And even though, again, I don't necessarily agree with his tactics and things he's done in the past, that happened in Dearborn, where now, according to Chief Shaheen, their Muslim police chief, 50% of their department is Muslim. That's what happens. That's when you now will get arrested. Which, by the way, there was a video I played on my show last week of a guy in the UK that just got arrested walking down the street saying Muhammad is a rapist and a pedophile. They arrested him immediately. That's what's going to happen if we don't understand this wake up. And one other quick point I was going to mention, to Annie's point, in the race that she mentioned with Hamawi in New Jersey, Brandon, you said if it was not for the left, these guys wouldn't necessarily get the power they have. The left enables the green for the time being. Hamawi was endorsed by Bernie Sanders. Hamawi was endorsed by Tammy Duckworth. Hamawi was endorsed by Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar. But 3 of those are the leftist, communist, socialist Marxists who endorsed Hamawi. So this is where we say, yes, they feed each other, but the red gives the footing to the green until the green becomes powerful enough, and then tends, from a history standpoint, tends to turn on the red.
Okay. Thank you, Shahram. Hold right there, guys. It looks like Lindsey Graham's sister has a pretty good little lead here, going 29.5% with only 12,222 votes counted on her side so far. More to go. But we are tracking. Now we are at exactly 8 o'clock Central, 9 Eastern Standard. The polls in Minnesota are now closed. And so we will now start watching for the results in Minnesota to start being reported. We'll be joined in just one moment by Trevor Loudon. Then we'll be joined by, I think Mike Lindell might join us. He said he would, so we'll see. But we'll be joined by Dan Eastman, who's actually in the state of Wisconsin tracking the Hong race. Let's go. Stand by, Annie. Stand by, Shahram, if you would, please. Guys, again, welcome back to the broadcast. If you're just joining us now, please tweet, text, email, Facebook, Getter, True Social. Spread the word about our live coverage here on the evening of August 11th, 2026, as we're covering the primary races in several states, including Wisconsin, Minnesota, South Carolina, Alabama, I think Vermont. That's the few that I can think of off the top of my head. I don't think there's too many more to go than that tonight. But we are certainly watching what takes place in Minnesota with Mike Lindell's race and, of course, Ms. Hong there in Wisconsin, a DSA, Democrat Socialist of America candidate. Joining me now, before I actually have them join me, I should remind you, we are a listener-supported broadcast. We do need your support. Please consider going to worldviewtube.com/sponsors. They didn't know where I was going, did you? worldviewtube.com/sponsors. If you'd like to check out the great products that we offer and the products that we ourselves take, like Bella Grace. This is a powerful elixir, 3 powerful ingredients in it, collagen with the peptides cut short. One of my kids was looking at photo albums. I'm putting together photo albums for each kid. And they were seeing some pictures of me and some video footage of me from, it was Logan, in fact. And he said, man, look at that. 3-4 years ago, your hair was so much thinner. You didn't have any hair down here. And my daughter was like, look at that. Your hair is growing in there. I can only attribute it to Bella Grace because of the collagen. The peptides are cut short, so your body actually absorbs it. Whereas most collagen, you're flushing about 95%, according to studies. But yet, according to the studies with this, you're absorbing 95%, partly because it's also paired with astaxanthin that crosses the brain-blood barrier. And then the third ingredient is cat's claw. That's a powerful anti-inflammatory. Check that out, would you, at Bella Grace. It's actually melissahousebg.com. You'll find it at worldviewtube.com/sponsors. melissahousebg.com, or again, just go to worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Look for the Bella Grace logo and everything on there. You'll see it with a picture of Melissa. So I take this each and every day. Sometimes I take it twice a day, mostly once. And then I would roll it up so you don't waste any of it, like you do a tube of toothpaste. So there you go. Gatatana, I take that every day. That's a powerful phytoplankton. 1 scoop is the equivalent of 90 billion plant cells. You'll find it at worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Dolly gets half a scoop on her food each and every day. Okay. And then, of course, Numi, this is loaded with glutathione. Hey, did you see the reports this week? Some of us have been eating what we thought were healthy foods, only to find out they've been tested, and they were not anywhere near as healthy and all natural as we were told they were. We were told they had things like avocado and all this other stuff instead of the bad oils. And then you find out, oopsie. So I'm telling you, my wife was like, how do we know anything is worth it when we're eating food? Even when they tell us it's supposedly good. I'm like, I don't know. That's why we have to swish every day, because this is how you get glutathione in your system within 90 seconds. There's over 160,000 studies on glutathione. And again, this is how you get into your system through Numi. Switch it around for about 3 minutes and then spit it out or swallow it. And you've got that in your system to detox and help detox your system. In fact, studies show that glutathione may remove mercury from your brain, helping prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. So there you go. All right, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. We're going to be joined now by, hang in there, Annie, hang in there, Shahram. Let's go real quick to Trevor Loudon. Trevor, welcome back to the broadcast. Thank you for being with us.
Greetings to Shahram and Annie.
Greetings to Shahram and Annie, says Trevor. We'll be bringing them back up into the box here in just a minute to engage with you a little bit. The polls have now closed, 8:05 Central Time in Minnesota. We'll see where they go. I think the polls probably closed the same time in Wisconsin, I would have to guess. So we're going to be watching this race. She had a 96% chance of winning, Miss Hong. Some are taking to calling her Viet Hong. Viet Hong. Have you heard that one, Shahram? I mean,
no.
Trevor?
No, it's pretty appropriate, though.
I don't want to lose a drop of that Bella Grace. All right. What do you think a win? I've asked Trevor, or Shahram, I've asked Annie. What do you think a win, say she wins the primary tonight, which I think she will, goes on to become the governor of the state of Wisconsin? What does that mean for the people living there? What does that mean for the influx of Islam? What does that mean for people like you and me and Annie and Usama and Shahram going back to speak? Do we have to start being worried about hate crime laws and hate speech being put against us?
Absolutely. But see, the key thing that will happen for a start, which nobody's really talked about, is you're not just electing Hong, you're electing all the people that she will appoint to various boards and hire. Like Zoran Mandami in New York right now is hiring hundreds of Marxists to fill all sorts of positions in the New York City administration. That's why New York's gone so far left. When David Dinkins, who was also a DSA comrade, was the mayor in the early 90s, he put hundreds of Marxists into positions. Some of them were still there under de Blasio. Some of them are still there now. So this is, you can vote her out in 3 years' time, right? But no, the hundreds of people she puts onto boards and heads of government departments, they will still be there for 20 years. And so you're going to bring this in the education department, etc. So look, all of the left-wing shibboleths, they will defund the police. They will destroy the justice system. Taxes will go up. Green New Deal. They'll clamp down on the energy industry. These people are hardcore communists. They seriously are communists. The DSA, I've read their stuff for years. They have regular webinars on the teachings of the Communist Manifesto. They're allied to Communist China. They're allied to Cuba. They've sent 3 delegations to Cuba in the last few months, last couple of years, allied to communist parties in Britain and Europe and Latin America, even Africa. They are more extreme, actually, than the Communist Party USA. Some young radicals have left the Communist Party USA because it wasn't militant enough and have joined the Democratic Socialists of America.
Tell our audience about, I want to play a clip from 2009. He's passed away, but I had the privilege of interviewing him. Tell our audience about Larry Grothwall and why he is germane to this conversation tonight. Because here I was interviewing him in 2009 and what he's warning about. How was his warning to America germane to tonight?
Well, look, DSA originally came out of the Communist Party and the Students for Democratic Society. So did the Weathermen Underground. They were one wing of it. So DSA comes out of the same organization as the Weathermen. Now, that was Bill Ayers, etc. They did over 100 bombings around the country. They were working with the Cubans, training with the Cubans. And they said to Larry Grothwall, well, you've got the clip there. They were hardcore revolutionary communists who were planning to kill millions of Americans. And I knew Larry pretty well. I heard his stories. He told me all about it. He was one of the very few that infiltrated that group because their security was so tight. But he got in with them, and Bill Ayers and that poured their little hearts out to him. And those little hearts were pretty black. They were going to kill lots of people, and their ancestors, their relatives, DSA, these soft little, girly DSA guys, they will kill people too if they had complete power in this country. Absolutely.
All right, I want to go to, now this is I interviewed him in 2009, as I said, but I replayed it in 2022, I think it was. So this is actually just a recording from one of my TV shows where I replayed it, but it's what he said to me on live radio in 2009. Larry Grothwall, who penetrated the Weather Underground. And of course, this is the connection to the DSA, as Trevor just explained. So those of you wondering tonight, just how concerned do you have to be? Just how concerned do you have to be with these kind of people running and winning? I think their ideology through Larry, who's since passed away, speaks volumes. Please listen to this.
Larry Grothwell joins us today. Larry, thank you for making time for us.
I'm glad to be here.
All right, let's cut to the chase. Is everything I said up till now correct about your background?
I actually was in Special Forces. I was a member of the 101st Airborne Division and went to Vietnam in 1965.
Okay, so you were airborne. All right. Yeah. So you come home and then you roll in school and you're approached, probably because of your military background, by people from the Weather Underground?
At first it was just they were recruiting people to go to the National Action, which was held in Chicago in October of 1969. This is a year after the Democratic National Convention, so don't confuse the two. They were just looking for people to go to the National Action and hit the streets with them. Later on, they found out about my military background, and I think that's probably one of the reasons that they were so interested in recruiting me to become a member of their group. I didn't go to the National Action, but it was during that time that I began to realize how serious a group these individuals were. I noted the fact that they were, graduates from some of the better colleges in the country. Many of them had master's degrees and PhDs. These were people from upper middle class and upper class backgrounds who were intent upon overthrowing the government at that time through organization, but later in December of 1969, they decided to go underground and begin what they referred to as strategic sabotage, that being picking targets in the United States that would be bombed and exploited in one way or the other, with the intent of adding to the chaos that the United States was facing, not only in Vietnam, but all over the world.
Okay, so when you went to the Cincinnati police, they made you an informant. Is that right?
They asked me to go to the meetings and let them know what was going on, and I did so. And then later I went to the FBI.
And so we see this clip that's been played of you saying that they wanted to have a communist revolution. You said these people were sitting around with their graduate degrees, PhDs, many of them, talking about this communist revolution, and that they want to then have re-education camps out in the Southwest, re-educate 100 million people. 100 million of them, out of the 100 million, 25 million would not be re-educated. And they're sitting around talking about exterminating 25 million and what to do with their bodies.
Right.
That's the clip we've played on our program many times.
Yes.
What
I remember
year was
that very well, and I remember the meeting and being absolutely shocked at the fact that these people, who again came from upper middle class and upper class backgrounds, sitting around talking about eliminating 25 million people, and they were dead serious. No pun intended. They meant it. They were making plans on how they were going to accomplish this, and they seriously believed that they were going to succeed in overthrowing the government. And that may sound crazy, but keep in mind that during the 60s and the 70s, you had a lot of turmoil in the country. And when you looked around the world, there was a lot of things going on in Vietnam and in other countries, China, Cuba. The Weathermen sent a lot of people to Cuba to be trained by the DGI, which was the equivalent of the Soviet KGB. Of course, there was the Cold War going on with Russia, and all of those things added up in the Weatherman's mind to mean that they were part of this international movement that was going to bring about the demise of the United States and the overthrow of the government, and they saw themselves as being inside the United States and in a position of being able to do damage internally that would subvert the country and bring us down.
So when you're sitting there then, and we come forward today, Larry, did you ever believe that sitting in the room, as you were right then, when you said you were hearing Bill Ayers and his friends talk about overthrowing America, having a communist revolution, re-educating 100 million people, did you ever believe that Bill Ayers would later become friends with the President of the United States and be writing the social justice curriculum, which is based on Karl Marx, socialism, communism, neo-Marxism? Did you ever believe that this man would rise to this level in education organizations and be friends with the President of the United States? And you'll hear that answer when we come back. Don't go away.
All right. That was, again, where I replayed it from a few years ago. And, of course, he knew that these guys were planning this for some time. But there you go, Trevor. There is him, Larry Garthwell, warning to me in 2009 that they wanted to re-educate millions of Americans, maybe 100 million in the deserts of the Southwest, couldn't re-educate probably 25 million of them, and trying to figure out what to do with their bodies. And he said, and the shocking thing is these guys had advanced degrees.
Well, look, all the main revolutionaries, the biggest butchers of the 20th century, many of them had degree, very well educated. Mao Zedong, Ho Chi Minh, Fidel Castro was a very well educated man. Pol Pot was a very well educated man. Communism is a movement of the intellectuals. It's not a movement of the working class. It is a movement of the intellectuals to get complete and utter power. And all those who say, oh, communism doesn't work, they miss the point. Communism is not about sharing the wealth. Communism is about concentrating all wealth and all power in very, very few hands. So from that point of view, it's been a very, very successful system. And you can see why many young people are attracted to it. Most of DSA today, I think something like 60% of DSA members are graduates, university graduates. Most of them are earning over $100,000 a year. This is not a movement of the working class. This is a movement of the intellectuals.
Now, let's go real quick. Speaking of this group, in Minnesota, for U.S. Senate, in the primary side, we're getting results down from Minnesota. We'll go to Mike Lindell's results coming in. But first, Peggy Flanagan. She's the lieutenant governor right now tonight, running for the U.S. Senate. And with only 1% of the precincts reporting, she right now is at 43%. Tell me about her and what are her chances of winning the U.S. Senate seat in Minnesota?
Well, I thought they might be a bit better than that. But okay, Peggy Flanagan comes out of the Wellstone movement. That's Paul Wellstone was a U.S. senator backed completely by Democratic Socialists of America. He was an advisor to one of their youth groups at Carleton College, I believe it was. He was involved with the New American Movement, which came out of the Communist Party USA and SDS. But he became a senator. He was the Bernie Sanders before Bernie Sanders. DSA put him in power. He's completely their puppet. But he died in a plane crash when he was about to run for president, running for a second term or a third term as a senator. Everybody knew he was going to run for president, but he died. So they set up this Wellstone action to train young radicals in his memory. Francis Fox Piven, for instance, was on the board of that organization. Now, Keith Ellison, the current Attorney General, was a Wellstone trainer. Tim Walz, the current governor of Minnesota, was a Wellstone trainee. Peggy Flanagan was also a Wellstone trainer. She trained hundreds of young Marxist radicals to spread their poison all over the country. She's also Native American, so she's also very close to a woman called Judith LeBlanc, the top Native American communist in the country. And Judith LeBlanc's organization, the NDN Collective, made a big deal of endorsing Peggy Flanagan in a U.S. Senate race. She's got communism from several angles. She's as hardcore radical as you can get. And I thought she would have a good chance of ousting Angie Craig. And as the votes come in, maybe that will happen. But hopefully Craig prevails. And I'm not a fan of Craig. Craig is a leftist too, but she's not quite as crazy as Peggy Flanagan.
Let's go real quick. Mike Lindell, the results are coming in here with, I'm not sure what percent's reporting here yet. Not many, though, I'll tell you that. They're actually saying 0% of votes counted, but it's got to be more than that because they've already got him, well, not much. Look at that. So really, they're at 324 votes. Okay, so they got not much counted here. So right now he's second place. So we'll keep following that. They're just coming in. I will say they've already called the governors for the Republican primary candidate for governor in Wisconsin. Tom Tiffany. They've already called it for him with only 4.8% reporting. Andy is not doing well, and then you have total write-ins. So they've already called it for him. I don't know much about Tom Tiffany. Does anyone? Let me bring in the other parts of the panel. Any, Shahram, any of you know anything about Tom Tiffany?
Yeah, he's the member of Congress. He's part of the Freedom Caucus. So those that I know in Wisconsin were encouraged by him in the sense of that, he's not, doesn't appear to be some sort of an establishment candidate, again, being a part of the Freedom Caucus there. So that was not a surprise at all. I think I mentioned that earlier, that he was expected to be the Republican nominee there, Brandon, and they've already called that, as you said. And by the way, real quick, I don't know if you're going to cover that in the Senate race there in South Carolina. That's going to be going to a runoff.
They've already decided that, huh?
Well, because no one's going to get more than 50%. South Carolina primary is a runoff state. So right now, what I saw, the latest was that Darlene Graham has about 33%. Ralph Norman has like 23.6%. And then they got Mark Sanford, who was the former governor. He had like 15% and so forth. So they've already counted like 90% there.
And they've just called it for Amy Klobuchar on the Democrat side.
On the Democrat side.
In Minnesota.
Yeah, I saw that too.
And there you go. It might be a fast night. They're counting fast in Minnesota. Look at this.
Isn't that amazing how they can count so fast?
It's amazing when it goes their way, right? Maybe. I don't know.
Exactly.
Look at this. Oh, boy, the results are coming in. They just got another tally. This is the Democrat race for governor, the primary in Wisconsin. David Crowley is at 42.5. Francesca Hong is at 33.2. Do you guys think, we don't know, are we going to get Dan Eastman? Has Dan joined us yet? Let's get Dan. That's only 5.6% of expected votes in so far. So we don't know if they've hit Milwaukee and Madison and all those. That's where she'll tip it over.
Well, Brandon, real quick, I was going to say he is, so Crowley is the county executive, right? He's the county executive, I think, in what county is Milwaukee in? I looked them up. Anyway, so I would keep an eye on that yet. I think it's still way too early, in my opinion.
Well, again, we don't know if they've done with Milwaukee or Madison. So this is going to be where things really start tipping. Let's get Dan Eastman. He's on the ground in Wisconsin. Okay, but let's get him. So if you guys don't mind, we'll find him. Let's see here. Annie, any thoughts on what we're seeing so far tonight?
No. Well, I do. I'm waiting. As you know, I have my eyes on the 2 Muslims in Minnesota. I'm waiting to see if we're going to have our official Republican Muslims in or not. No update on their race yet.
You're talking about for the Senate, Annie?
Both Congress and Senate. We have Dahlia for Minnesota 5th, and then we have Hassan for Senate.
Yeah, that's a really, really crowded field there in that Senate race in Minnesota. It's going to be like crazy. They have like a whole bunch of candidates there, I saw.
They do. I think it's Hassan. They have Michelle Tafoya.
Who's
the favored candidate.
She's the favorite, yeah.
Yes. And then Royce White, Adam Schwartz, and 2 other people, I think. Well, he's been always a long shot, but he's the only Muslim, so I'm just curious.
Yeah. And in Fox News is reporting in the state of Connecticut, let's see here, there's a candidate running by the name of Shay. Shay, a retired Navy SEAL and firefighter, faced off with DeBarius, a vocal supporter of the late Charlie Kirk, in an at times nasty primary. DeBarius sued a handful of Shea supporters for defamation over a criminal conviction, blah, blah, blah. It looks like, however, the headline is Navy SEAL firefighter defeats Charlie Kirk ally in GOP primary for battleground seat. So that's in. We'll keep following that. Let's go back to Minnesota real quick. What's the latest there? Right now, we have Mike Lindell, 31%. Demuth is at 43%. Klobuchar is just running away with it. It's early in, but we're being told some of the stations in the Twin Cities are already calling it for her. I guess you could see why. So that's who they're going to run for governor on the Democrat Party side. Anything else you're seeing, Shahram?
No, again, it's really early there for that race in Minnesota. I would wait to see with Lisa DeMuth, who is the Speaker of the House in Minnesota. The people were torn there because, as you know, Kendall Qualls won he was the GOP nomination at the state convention. So he got the GOP nod. But then Lisa DeMuth and Mike Lindell were obviously staying in the race. So it's been kind of divided. So that's going to be interesting to see if her 46% lead right now holds up with the fact that you basically have a three-way race. We just had the same thing for our governor's race here, where Marsha Blackburn won the primary for governor in the Republican, but she didn't break 45. She was like 43%, 40, something like that. So you had, more than 57% vote against her. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there in watching Mike's race there in Minnesota.
And we just got more results for Wisconsin. They just refreshed the page. And now we see 34.4% for Hong, 41.5% for Crowley. So this could be a race that goes on for another, I don't know. I don't think these are going to take all night. I think these are coming in pretty quick. Are you shocked by that, Trevor? How is it when it's Democrat races, they come in pretty quick?
Yeah, but look, that could be a rural area where it's more conservative. Mm-hmm. As you say, I'm waiting for Milwaukee and Madison. That will decide whether Francesca Hong progresses. But she has shot herself in the foot in recent days.
She wants to outlaw Thanksgiving. She wants to be done with Thanksgiving, defund the police. What else, Trevor?
Well, she also revealed her mental issues, that were probably troubling to a lot of people. As a young woman, she had some pretty harsh issues going on. So none of that would help her, I don't think. So what should have been hers to lose, if she does lose, it'll be because of that, I think, and people calling out her DSA connections. She's sort of backing away from those now, but she's been a member for several years, endorsed by every single DSA chapter in the state and national DSA. They don't do that if you're not on board with their agenda. She is fully on board with the DSA communist agenda.
Mm. Trevor, what does all this tell you? The fact that you have candidates like this, as vocal as they are about their agenda, that do very well and raise a lot of money. What does this tell you about what's happening in America? And I think I know what's attributing some of it. Education for decades, the media, pop culture, movies, and of course, now you have an economic problem and housing issues, and kids go to school and spend a lot of money on college, and then they can't find a good paying job, many of them, and they become disheartened, and they become ripe for being recruited to the communist side.
Yeah, I think all of that's true. And the fact that we have too many darn cowardly Republicans who won't fly the flag and won't be idealistic and won't call out our enemies and don't make a case either for their cause or on how bad the enemy is. I saw Tim Sheehy today, the senator from Montana, former Navy SEAL, absolutely lay into the Iranians, the horrific crimes committed by Islam. He talked about beheadings and skinnings. And, if Republicans around the country had talked like Tim Sheehy, the left would be absolutely hammered, and so would the advance of Islam. More courage like that is.
And she was the one running in Connecticut, right?
No, Sheehy. This is in Montana.
Oh, okay, all right, because there was a she or SHEA running in Connecticut. So this is.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
This is
Tim Sheehy. He's a sitting senator. He was not running for anything. I'm just saying. He was a Republican who went out today and absolutely, former Navy SEAL, so he's fought these guys, for absolutely laid into Islam and what it's doing to this country. Absolutely took no prisoners, I'll tell you.
Here, look at this, Trevor. Peter Schweitzer. 1/3 of Democrats now call themselves socialist. 1/3.
Yep. Yeah, well, that's right. It's become the prevailing culture, and as the older, more moderate Democrats die off, the younger ones, as you say, have been indoctrinated in schools and had been loving Bernie Sanders for years and wear Che Guevara T-shirts and stuff like that. They are now becoming the dominant force in the Democratic Party. But I don't want to give the Democrats a break here because, look, the Democratic Party has been controlled by communists starting in the 1970s, probably even earlier. And you had the generation of the 80s that come in. Look, Nancy Pelosi was a DSA supporter. As I said, Paul Wellstone, many of these old guard, you look at the communist background of Chuck Schumer and Dick Durbin and all these people. These people are hardcore communists even then. This is just a more open variety that we're seeing now.
Mm-hmm.
This is the new, braver, dumber model coming forward who are just too stupid to hide their intentions.
And now, of course, we're early in, but a while ago we reported that Peggy Flanagan, who is tied to the Paul Wellstone group, she's not DSA, but she would be aligned with some of their ideologies, right?
Well, Wellstone was a DSA group. It was completely DSA. She was part of it for many years, and they trained DSA people, had DSA people on their staff. So she's in that milieu, absolutely.
But she's flying under the radar?
Well, people don't know her connections to the Communist Party. They don't understand what the Wellstone movement was. It was a Marxist movement. Even a lot of Republicans in Minnesota still think Paul Wellstone was, the second coming, basically. He's very highly regarded in that state, even by some conservatives. Very few of them know he was a Marxist, hardcore Marxist.
So she's the lieutenant governor. You say she comes out of that background. And a while ago, she was not in first, but now she is with the polls coming in and continue to come in.
I see.
What's that, Trevor?
Okay. So I see that it has quickly changed with new votes.
Yeah, you were a little shocked a while ago when she was in second place, but that was 15 minutes ago. And look how quick it changes, right?
Yeah, I would expect her to win this, as I would expect Francisca Hong to prevail, even though she is trailing at the moment.
Mm-hmm. And as the lieutenant governor right now, she'll have a good shot at winning this U.S. Senate seat, will she not? I mean, I guess she's going to be campaigning against.
Well, she's got a lot of name recognition. Yeah.
I don't. Who's the candidate?
Well, she's campaigning against the same Congress member, Angie Craig. So both of them have high profiles.
Okay.
But Angie Craig, for some reason, is regarded as slightly more moderate, though I wouldn't call her a moderate by my standards.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's go to bring in Dan Eastman. Dan is out of Wisconsin. Dan, we are watching the results in your state. Hong, she was in second place a while ago as we were watching. She still is in right now. As of right now, she is in second place. Let's see, it's now 41.2% to 36.8%. So she's narrowing the gap a little bit. I don't even know what precincts are reporting. Have we gotten to Milwaukee and Madison yet, Dan Eastman?
Well, we are been watching. I'm just apologize. I'm driving back from a polling place. Our polling place is closed at 8:00 p.m. and that was a half hour ago. I watched the closing process and the transmission of the data to our county clerk. But statewide, the polls close at 8:00 and the results come in. We are watching very carefully the Milwaukee Central Count facility for the city of Milwaukee. That's the Central Count facility that is at the epicenter of an FBI investigation in Milwaukee over the 2020 election and its notorious ability to allegedly change the outcome of the votes. So whatever happens in Milwaukee, the city of Milwaukee, will probably drive this election. Dane County, of course, is our state capital with the University of Wisconsin. It's a huge 45,000 student operation, very liberal county. So really, Dane in Milwaukee will drive this election. And there are some interesting dynamics. Because we're watching David Crowley. I'm not sure where he is because been observing. We're watching other Democrat candidates.
They've already called it.
I do know that the Democrat...
David Crowley, David right now is leading 40.8% to Hong's 37.3%.
Right. I would assume, given the substantial African-American vote in Milwaukee, with both the county executive, David Crowley, and of course our Milwaukee City Mayor, Cavalier Johnson, he's a great guy, by the way, that is a determining vote. And I think that the Democratic Party traditionally in Milwaukee has been very, very focused on current leadership. So I would not be surprised to see David Crowley pull ahead. Keep in mind, as an elected county executive of the largest county in the state, with over 40% of the population of Wisconsin, that's an executive position. And a former Republican governor, Scott Walker, sat in that same chair, Milwaukee County executive. So given his executive experience and his electability in a very high populous county, he's certainly a contender.
So I guess we don't endorse candidates here, but I would have to say, who wouldn't be rooting for David Crowley unless you're for a communist, right?
Well, Milwaukee has an interesting history. From 1910 to 1950, we had 38 consecutive years of a socialist mayor. That was the Frank Zeidler era. 38 years of a socialist in the city of Milwaukee. Not Democrat, not Republican, but socialist. So there is a tradition in Milwaukee of voting for the socialist side. Of course, in the Cold War, they started calling themselves Democrats again. But the point is, Milwaukee is a very interesting and old school place. So
you're telling me that an open socialist won as the mayor of Wisconsin, as mayor of Milwaukee, multiple times?
Yeah, they served for 38 years from 1910 to 1950. And it wasn't until the Cold War that they changed their name to the Democrats because socialists became unpopular. But we have a long tradition in the city of Milwaukee of having a socialist mayor. They call them sewer socialists because they were more interested in running public services than they were in ideology. So they were beloved by the people. They delivered good sewers and water and streets and snow plowing and garbage. They were very focused on delivering services to the working class of Milwaukee.
Okay, so that was their message. That was their message, not free housing, not free health care, not canceling, defunding police, and not canceling Thanksgiving.
No, that would have been off the rails back in the early 1900s. That simply would not have been popular. But today's socialists are very, very interesting. And it's not your grandfather's Democrat Party. Let's leave it at that.
Do you think that if Crowley wins, do you think that he would govern left or more to the center?
Well, he'll govern left, but we're coming off of 8 years of a Democrat governor who delivered very little for the state in 8 years. I would expect Crowley to be of the same more moderate Democrat, but he's beholden to a lot of political forces. So, he's not, if you're Republican leaning, you'd be preferring the other guy.
What? But he's not going to be a full-on socialist / Marxist.
No. That message did not resonate with Milwaukee's African-American community. They understand the problem with the Social Democrats, and effectively, they don't fit in that model. They know that. I know a lot of good friends. I grew up in Milwaukee, went to school in Milwaukee from kindergarten to graduate school. And what Hong is selling in Wisconsin is not what people are buying. And I think the African-American community understands that. Plus, you have a very competent mayor and you have a very competent county executive. The city and the county are running. So it makes sense that conservative Democrats, if there is such a thing, would not be excited about a message. Keep in mind, Hong is 37 years old, and her job is a noodle cook in a restaurant. Well, that's not exactly the kind of person who can lead a state of, 6 million people and a massive $13 billion budget. So, at some point, the sizzle falls away and the reality sets in that we've got a government to run here. And whether it's Republican or Democrat, you have to have somebody who's at least competent. And our governor who's leaving office, Tony Evers, he was elected statewide as superintendent of public instruction. So he himself had 8 years of executive experience before he became governor. So I'm not seeing how the noodle chef gets to the governor's mansion, but stranger things have happened. We'll see where the results go.
Wait a minute. Is this real? Shahram, you just sent me this. Is this Flanagan? And is that
yes?
That's real. That's not Photoshop or nothing.
That's real. No, that's
Protect
real.
Trans kids.
When Tim Walz signed, the bill codifying trans rights in Minnesota, I want to say that was 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That was Flanagan with that shirt. So I sent that to you because I want people to understand. She is pro-trans, yes, pro-LGBT, but pro-trans, pro-violence. And more than likely, that's going to be the U.S. Senator taking Amy Klobuchar's spot. I mean, again, Minnesota is obviously can be a toss-up state. But I wanted you to see that, and then I also send you some links to sort of what they're calling the DSA's idea of we want 1,000 Mamdanis. By the way, real quick, Brandon, I was just looking at numbers. Milwaukee is finally coming in. Yeah, 1,000 Zorons. If you look at that and the other link I sent you, they track inside the DSA. Inside their meetings, inside their phone calls. That's a really good article there, Inside the DSA Machine, that goes through and highlights how long they've been at work and goes back and talks about Mamdani being involved with these campaigns going back at least 10 years, within New York City. So it was very, very good articles there. But I wanted to show you Flanagan, that's her with a knife with fighting for trans rights. And by the way, do you remember when there was the shooting at the Catholic school in Minneapolis by the trans guy?
Yes.
Neither Tim Walz, from my knowledge, neither Tim Walz or certainly not Flanagan, did they denounce that shooting in the sense of being, somebody that was, an avowed trans individual attacking a Catholic Christian school and children. So these people are radical. But Milwaukee, Brandon, is right. They're saying it's about 44% in, and it's tight.
I mean, look at that. Crowley is at 41.3% now. She's at 39.3%. So a lady that makes noodles. I mean, Trevor, I have nothing against.
That's shocking.
I have nothing against great cooks or chefs. You're a great cook. You're a great baker. You have a background in bakery. You're very good at this, but you also are a common sense guy. So I have no issue with the fact that she might cook noodles, but you got to have some credentials. And you have credentials beyond just being a great baker. You have great intellect. You've written multiple books. You understand these philosophies and these ideas. And she's closing in on a guy that's got executive experience in Milwaukee.
Well, she's not closing in. The DSA machine is closing in.
The DSA machine. Well, that's a very good point you make right there, Trevor. Because what that means is they could put up anybody to run if they put their money and their machine behind them.
That's exactly right. AOC is a ditz. But she Zohran Madami's got all sorts of red flags. But, the Democrats, Democrat candidate might have, say, 50 volunteers. The DSA candidate will have 300 volunteers plus 1,000 phone bankers from all over the country.
And why is that? Why is that?
Because they federalize these elections. They have so much riding on them. DSA's got 120,000 members. So,
what does that mean when you say they federalize the elections? What does that mean?
Well, okay, you're running for county commission in Nebraska. You're going to have people from Iowa, from New Mexico, from Hawaii, phone banking into your district. You're going to have volunteers from 3 neighboring states all in the state. So the local Democrat will have 50 volunteers and you'll have 300.
So in other words, for federalizing the election would be they nationalize the elections.
They nationalize election. You know, Zohran Mandami had people from California going in to door knock for him. He had phone bankers from Alaska and Nebraska. You know, they have tens of thousands of people, plus the unions they control, plus the churches they control, all focused on one race. Hong, if she didn't have DSA, couldn't get elected to a county commission in the smallest county in the state. She is DSA's creation. Their machine is putting her where she could possibly go. She would be nothing without DSA.
Hey, Brandon.
Yes, and and by the way, we got new numbers, and she's closing again. Now she's at 39.4%. He's at 41.9%. So we're watching these numbers come in, they refresh, and she's gaining.
And Brandon, remember I said earlier that couple of 3-4 weeks ago, they had a rally in Milwaukee with Hassan Piker. So Hassan Piker actually told the crowd exactly what Dan said, which is that the sewer socialist, that's why I was talking about that they were saying this is kind of the birthplace of socialism. He went through the history of the sewer socialists and talked about that this is it. You guys are it. I want to ask, could I ask Dan a question?
Yes,
I mean,
please.
Isn't it shocking that right now in Milwaukee County, where Crowley is the executive, 74% votes in, Hong is only behind by 1,000 votes. I mean, that is the power of what Trevor just said. This is the DSA machine that is the problem.
The bigger problem in Milwaukee, there are 17 communities in the county of Milwaukee. The city of Milwaukee is the largest, and 16 other small communities. Those small communities tend to be white, liberal, college-educated people who buy into the Social Democrat platform. The city of Milwaukee is working class, African-American, and more Hispanic. So what you're seeing is a very traditional problem we have in Wisconsin with this suburban ring of young, prosperous white families that are voting more and more radical in their voting. And I think when they came to town with that traveling circus, that was very impressive for a lot of suburban community people who see this as an opportunity to change the paradigm, to bring somebody in who's completely different than everybody else, but they don't understand that that's a serious executive job. And if she becomes governor, she will appoint a cabinet and agency heads, and those will be the operatives you're talking about. Those will be the people who will come in and get these appointed positions and run the agencies according to the master plan while she's running around as governor shaking hands. She will not be governing. And we saw this even with the Evers administration during COVID. So many of his appointees were from out of state. They had never touched Wisconsin soil until suddenly they're appointed secretary of this, secretary of that. They infiltrate the nomenclatura, the operation of government, the agencies with their socialist and communist operatives who control the entire state agency. And they're controlled from beyond. They're not controlled from the governor's mansion. They are literally controlled by a master plan nationwide of how to govern from a democratic socialist perspective. Same thing with Mandami. He's not sitting there dreaming that stuff up. He's the bobblehead when everybody in his organization, his administration, are the operatives that are executing the plan. Very serious problem. This is an infiltration and an insurgency, the way it's shaking out.
Let me bring Annie in. Annie, you're listening to how they have Trevor and Dan is explaining this how they nationalize the elections or federalize elections. So they'll take a local race of a DSAer and they'll get help from all over the country, door knockers, people answering the phones, making the phone calls from all over the country because they got to get their candidates to win. We know that there are a lot of Islamists that are on the ballots and they're winning. Are they doing the same thing? Are they pulling that same tactic? But I would venture to guess they're getting money somehow also, more than nationalizing the election, it's internationalizing the election with foreign help. Yes?
Absolutely, 100%. Yes, they are doing the same thing. Well, if you look on CARE's website, a while ago, they put out all the Muslim candidates they endorse, and then they started helping getting the volunteers for each one in their own city, in their own zip code to go knock at doors and get votes. But then also, as I said earlier on the show, if you dig into the funding, you'll see how they're using all of our own loopholes to use these quote-unquote nonprofits to funnel money into these campaigns and help them financially to be able to get more manpower, more people on the ground, get the votes. And then let's bring in the final thing that we've all now got confirmation from government. They also have their friends outside of the country who have no problem hacking our election systems or the machines. So if needed, that's the last push.
Do you have any evidence, any of you, the DSA network helps the Islamists? Are they door knocking for them? Are they phone calling for them? Are they fundraising for them? Do we have any evidence of that?
Yeah, 100%.
Yes.
This happened with Abdul El-Sayed, Brandon. I mean, this is it just happened. It just happened in Michigan with Abdul El-Sayed, that the DSA was door knocking with him and working for his campaign. And then it happens the other way. With Milad Kiros in Colorado, it was the other way, where we could identify about $500,000 of funding towards her primary to defeat I think it was a 15-term incumbent there. And then real quick, I was going to mention with these boards that you're seeing, Brandon, this is what happened in Minnesota. When Tim Walz was running for governor, he went to the Somali Muslim community. He wanted to get their support. So once he becomes governor, who did he appoint to the governor's board? Jailani Hussein, the head of CARE. So, and now look at Massachusetts, right? They have their that Senate bill there that goes through, Senate Bill 2134, where they're now proposing an 11-member Muslim committee, or a committee to specifically focus on Muslim Americans and Islam in the state of Massachusetts. So again, going back to your point earlier on, the red helps the green, and we saw it with Abdul El-Sayed. Then the green takes over.
Yeah, I just pulled up some of my paperwork. On my research, I have here George Soros Open Society Foundations have pretty much donated millions of dollars, funneling it into the Democrat Socialist of America, from there funneling it into the Palestine Legal 501c, funneling it into the Muslim campaigns. Just to name a few here.
So we know so far that Amy Klobuchar wins the Democrat primary race for governor in Minnesota. We're watching these other races. Trevor, tell me, didn't you write about Amy Klobuchar in your book, Senator, what was the name of the book? Senator Security Risk or something?
Security Risks. And it's just look, Amy Klobuchar also has had a long connection to Democratic Socialists of America. Look, these are not new. This has been around since 1982. She was very much, her father, by the way, was an alcoholic communist who took her on bicycle tours of the Soviet Union as a young girl. Who does that? But then when she went to college, all the professors that she professed to admire were all DSAers, all DSA guys. So she's been supported by DSA all the way through as well. Minnesota has had a heavy DSA presence since the early 80s.
Why would she want to step aside from being a U.S. senator to become the governor? A lot of times guys go from governor to U.S. senator, do they not? Why would she want to do that unless she wants to run for president or vice president as governor?
Well, she's already run for president once.
That's right, she did, didn't she?
She didn't, but the governor's got a lot of power. Minnesota is the springboard of communism and Islamism in the Midwest.
Yeah.
It's a very powerful, it's a very influential state.
So she probably could have stayed. She could have stayed U.S. senator probably if she wanted. I don't know any reason why she couldn't.
Easily.
So she chose being governor because you think she is believing she can get more done for her worldview.
I think so. Well, she may not want. She may be sick of the travel too, But I think it's not a downgrade for her.
But you broke up for a minute.
Revolution forward.
You broke up for a minute. Are you saying you do think she took governor because she thinks she can do more for her cause?
No, I think I just said she might be sick of the travel, to Washington all the time. But no, it's not a downgrade for her. She can do a lot for the revolution as governor of a very important state. That's a red-green axis state. That is the springboard of socialism and Islamism right in the heart of America, right in the Midwest there. So she's not backing off the revolution by becoming governor.
Mm. The number of, we used to have Jason Lewis on quite a bit. I got to get Jason back on. Jason was a congressman there. He was a very successful talk show host there. He had his own show locally, KSTP, AM 1500. He went on to sit in for Rush Limbaugh quite a bit. They got his own national show syndicated. Then he ran for U.S. Congress. Then he ran for U.S. Senate in Minnesota. A lot of people think he won, that he was robbed of that race. But after that, he hung it up and he went to Florida. There are a lot of people leaving. He's come on my broadcast talking about the volume of people leaving Minnesota. I mean, it seems to me if the conservatives are leaving, and I don't blame them, Minnesota, and if more and more people leave Wisconsin, these states are going to flip. They're going to be gone like Michigan. Are they not, Trevor?
Yeah, well, exactly. Like if you're a parent in Minnesota, they can get at your kids in all sorts of ways.
Yep.
There's horrible policies there. But just one point on Michigan. You talked about, Michigan elected a communist mayor in the 70s. His name was Coleman Young, an actual Communist Party member. Then a whole lot of DSAs took over the council there. Half the council were DSAs back in the 80s. Then they wrecked the economy, destroyed the state, destroyed the whole city. And then in 2014, they brought in a woman to revitalize Detroit's economy, a woman called Carol O'Clearicane, also a member of Democratic Socialists of America. She was supposed to revitalize Detroit. So you want to see where you're going to go in Wisconsin or Minnesota if you elect these people. You're going to Detroit. That's where you're heading.
I want to show some video of what Detroit used to be and what Detroit is now. I mean, you guys have probably seen some of that. Detroit used to be like cutting edge on obviously the auto manufacturing business there, but they were culture, arts, architecture, museums. I mean, they were really something else, Trevor.
It was the most humming city in America for a while, We were definitely in the Midwest. There was no doubt about that.
And today, Detroit's just horrific.
That's all political.
And that's all socialism. That's all the socialist agenda.
Yeah. But see, this thing, and Dan said, people want good government. But the socialists don't want to govern the cities well. They want to wreck the cities now. Back in the sewer socialist days, Frank and all those guys, they actually had some civic responsibility. These guys just want to tear the place down. Mm-hmm. This new breed of DSAs, they want Detroits everywhere. They want to destroy American capitalism completely. So they're way worse than the socialists of old.
So the U.S. senator running, or the one running for U.S. Senate in the primary up there in Minnesota, Michelle Tafoya, just won. They've just declared she won the primary for the GOP run for U.S. Senate. They've called it for her.
Yeah.
Lindell race is now, Mike is now slipping. He was doing better, but he's now slipping. And Lisa is picking up more steam. Back to Wisconsin. That one is moving quickly. 38.9 for Hong, 40.4% for Crowley. So, again, this is a nail biter. Dan, people are flooding out of Minnesota, according to Jason Lewis, a few months ago, we interviewed him. He kept bringing it up, and rightfully so. What's happening with the population? Are they fleeing Wisconsin? And after this election cycle, do you think you'll see more people saying we're done and they're coming down here to Tennessee and other places? I mean, we know a lot of folks have left California, and you're looking at one right now that left Washington State and came to Tennessee. I told him to do it. I said, you ought to come on here, and he did. We know my editor, she lived her whole life in California. Her dad was a world-renowned surgeon, my editor. I met my editor through her father, a world-renowned surgeon that supported us and followed us. And she became my editor when her dad introduced me. And she was a lifelong resident of California. They had a beautiful ranch in California, and they hung it up a few years ago. They live just a few miles from Shahram. A lot of folks have left the West Coast and come here to Tennessee. What are they doing in Wisconsin?
Well, traditionally, we've had higher taxes, so I think that shock has been well absorbed. Although I think if Hong becomes governor at 8 or 17% top marginal income tax rate is higher than the income tax rate at the lower levels of the federal tax system, that will cause a massive exodus. But what we have seen are the traditional Wisconsin industrial families en masse have moved to Florida and Texas and Tennessee, places that don't have income taxes. And that's an ongoing problem as more people, new people come in on the lower end of the economic spectrum. The productive class is moving out, and of course, we've lost our union power back when the industrial age ended in Wisconsin and we became part of the Rust Belt. So you're really looking at a population that is dependent more and more on the government for all sorts of familial functions, daycare and food stamps. Amazing the number of people on food stamps in Wisconsin, the Medicaid system. We become a magnet for social programs that assist a class of people that will never leave that zone. And this is statistically proven. I talk about this on my show all the time, that you simply are creating a vast number of people who are permanently dependent upon the federal government and the state governments for their existence. And that's how we see the $9 billion disappearing out of Minnesota and ending up in suitcases heading over to Somalia. There are so many dollars flowing in. And these administrations, they live for that. This is all about creating more and more federal flow into these states, Minnesota, Wisconsin, certainly Michigan. And if you look at who runs the programs, they do rather well. If you look at the people on the programs, they don't do very well at all. And that's really what we're seeing is this transition away from a fair, free capitalistic society where you have small businesses and large businesses and a lot of economic activity, moving away to a permanent class of people that are more and more dependent upon state and federal government for their existence. And that's the goal of the Social Democrats. They want everybody to be a ward of the state. And they themselves, if you look at the people who run these programs, they're the ones living in the mansions in the suburban ring around Milwaukee. It's either healthcare or government. And this is the problem that we're seeing, that these economies are deteriorating as a result of these Democrat and socialist programs that do nothing but create a continuing and permanent class of people that are dependent upon the system, not to eat and housing and even transportation. This is not a prosperous America. But when you see them moving to California or to Texas and Florida and other places, we're actually looking at a slow motion dissolution of the United States of America.
Well, that was my next question.
A prosperous place and a lot of poor people in the rest of the country.
And that was my next question for the panel. Are we watching the great divorce here, Dan?
I think in some cases we are. In the 1860s, the issue was slavery, but the issue was states' rights. It really was driven by whether or not states can control their government. We were 13 original colonies that were independent, and then we joined together under this federal umbrella to keep the British from coming back, and the federal umbrella has become an empire. When you think about it, we are colonies within the United States of America. Wisconsin is a colony of the United States empire. And you know, Washington, D.C. is not part of a state. It's its own little district. But we have 50 colonies and more controlled by the federal government and wealth extracted by the federal government. And we're stuck with the social train wreck. When you're looking at a government that's $40 trillion in debt, $2.5 trillion annual budget deficit. That means they got to borrow that money. So it's $42.5 trillion next year. This is a government, a federal government, that is extracting wealth out of the United States in a way that King George III could not have imagined, pulling 38% of people's income. And then in addition to all of the other wealth of the nation, that's all controlled by Washington. So what we're seeing is a reaction by the populace. And unfortunately, they're feeding the very mechanisms that keep the United States, effectively, the states are being burned. So we are seeing a divorce. There are some states that still believe in the system of free enterprise and small business, big business, a free and fair market economy. And people are moving there. But what do you do with the train wrecks that are left? And I think Wisconsin's on the cutting edge. We're very manufacturing. We're very agricultural. But more and more, it is deteriorating into healthcare and government. That's what we do here. We make healthcare, we make government. 42% of our workers now work in the healthcare system, and there is no way you can look at our healthcare system and think free market. And we have, as a patient, you don't have any input into the pricing at all. You don't know what you paid until the bill shows up. So it's a real problem in the U.S. that we have to address. And I think it comes from the pulling away of the United States Senate from the state governments. In 1913, we amended the Constitution, and lo and behold, the states have no representation in the empire in Washington. Now it's just populist body and another populist body that are designed to contradict each other, but the states have no say. Back in the 1860s, the states had a big say in the United States Senate. Today, we don't have that at all. So you're really looking at a deterioration of the whole concept of the American Constitution, which from a lawyer's perspective is very frightening.
So let me ask the other panelists, do you think, Trevor, we're headed for a great divorce here in America? Are we going to break apart? Are people going to vote with their feet until we have a big divide in this country?
Well, this is being deliberately driven by overseas actors to make this happen. Yeah, look, I don't want to see that happen. But Dan is right. These are the forces at work. But we have to understand the Chinese, the Russians, and others are driving this very, very deliberately. And that's people like Marjorie Taylor Greene are sort of stirring the process along. So yes, economic forces, the socialism is creating this, but we cannot allow it to happen. We have to remain the United States. This is important today to remain united, as it was when Lincoln fought to save the government back in the 1860s.
Trevor, I can let you go. I know you're in a later time slot there. It's 10:08 Eastern Standard. I will gladly say good night and let you get some rest, my friend.
Well, that's nice, but thanks very much. It's good to be on. Good to meet everybody, and I'm sure we'll see how it all turns out. I might stay up a little bit and see how Peggy Flanagan does and how Francesca Hong does. Those are the big races I'm watching.
Well, yeah, but, and we'll give you the latest here. She has 39.9. He has 41.4.
Yeah, he's doing a lot better than I expected him to do.
Me too.
Actually.
I was not expecting that.
Yeah, like if it had gone on another week, I'm sure he'd be winning a lot more now. He picked up a lot of steam in the last week.
Yeah, it didn't help when she wants to run around canceling Thanksgiving and defunding the police, right?
Well, he picked up steam and she blew her credibility in the last week.
Mm-hmm.
So
and Flanagan,
go either way.
Flanagan now has 52% for she's Lieutenant Governor running for U.S. Senate for the primary for the DFL. She's now at 52%. I think she's going to win this one.
Yeah, I think she will, and it's going to be good news to run against her because she's got so much you can have on her. But
well, and the candidate she's running against, Michelle, I don't know a lot about her, but she
are very popular apparently.
Is she?
I don't know her philosophical depth. I have no idea. But I know she's well known. Lot of good public recognition. But how deep she is, I just don't know.
Mm-hmm. Trevor is trevorloudon.com. I'm not forcing you off, Trevor, but I just felt like being it's 10:08, 10:09 there, I want to give you the chance to bow out, but you're also welcome to stay.
Yeah, I will go, Brandon.
I figured you would. He gets up. Trevor gets up very early, folks. So TrevorLoudon.com is his website. TrevorLoudon.com. As always, Trevor, thank you for being with us.
It's always a pleasure. Thanks to meet you guys and Dan and Shahram and of course Annie. So and you, Brandon, too. So. And a big shout out to your audience. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Trevor. And guys, check into his books at TrevorLoudon.com. Books, columns, so much more there at TrevorLoudon.com. Let's go back. New results here real quick. David Crowley and the Francisca Hong race. Look at that, folks. 40.2 now to 40.8. Let me ask you, Annie, do you think America is headed for a great divorce? Is that how this is going to go down? Or is it going to just be we see them California, Tennessee, and Washington State, Tennessee, and take down Texas, and they're building a ton of mosques in Florida. So do you think they're just going to keep going this direction until they've won enough? Sadly, baby boomers pass on. Young people have been completely flipped their side. Or do you think in the next few years, couple of years, it'll come to a head and there'll be a great divorce where people in Tennessee and Mississippi and Arkansas and Missouri and other states like that are going to say Alabama? No, there's no way in heck we're going to go down the Francisca Hong route, the Mondani route. I mean, I know enough good old boys down here and good old gals. They are not, they would say better dead than red. They are not going that route, Annie. What say you?
Well, I would start with something Grandma used to say.
Here it goes, folks. Get a pen and paper.
It's one thing to know how to shoot. It's another thing to know when to draw.
How to shoot.
Shoot.
Oh, wait. I'm like, did she just cuss? And I don't understand how that works. Okay, it's one thing to know how to shoot. Okay, her accent got real in the way. We're going to have to save this as a blooper roll right here. Grandma said it's one thing to know how to shoot and another thing to know when to draw. Okay, when I thought you were cursing, I'm like, this makes no sense. I hate to tell you, your grandma had Alzheimer's or something at that point. So, okay, that makes much better sense. Grandma said, just to clarify, family friendly, it's one thing to know how to shoot and another thing to know when to draw. Is that what you said, Annie?
That is what she said, yes. And that's the problem with all the good guys and gals you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. The problem is America does not realize that the time to draw was about 4 years ago. So I think, and at least an answer I gave a good friend who asked the same question a few weeks ago, what is happening in Iran, what is happening in Iran is exactly what's going to happen in America. Next generation is going to fight them, not this generation. No. Next generation will.
Are you
fight
telling me
them
Logan and Thomas and Jeb and Max?
Their kids.
Their kids?
Next generation. Yes.
So not even Logan's
Gen Z.
generation. Logan's children will be the next revolution generation.
Exactly.
What
Logan's
you're telling
generation.
me is that more than likely my son and the guys in the control room will go into adulthood and get married and have children and raise children under Marxism and Islam. And then their children will say, and be in the streets.
Yes. I have always said Western countries, specifically America, is one generation behind the Persian history. Right when the Islamic Revolution supposedly happened, if you look at the generational gap, that's where America was coming to be done with the Carter and with the corruption and trying to get things back in order. Now, if I follow that behavior, I would say, yes, the guys in control rooms' kids are going to be the Iranians in Iran on the streets who are fighting today. So I know most people are not going to even entertain what I'm saying, but no, we are going to hand our country over, not because me, you, Shahram, Dan, and Trevor, and the rest of us aren't going to continue fighting, but there aren't enough of us. Look, we are fighting because we know where we're at. Silent majorities are still waiting for it to happen to them, which by then it's too late to fight it.
All right, I just called Mike Lindell. He told me to hold on, so let's see what happens. Mike has just put me on hold. When he comes back, we'll see what Mike has to say. Let's go. The Hong race keeps tightening, 4.8 to 40.8 to 40.2. And it just came in. There you go. Well, wait a minute. She went down. She was at 40.2. Didn't I just say that? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're going to have to watch the Milwaukee vote come in. And the city of Milwaukee is well known for its central count operations. People go to the polling places, there's 300 and some polling places, depending on the election, and they vote the normal way. But if you vote early in Wisconsin, you can vote 2 weeks before the election by going to the clerk's office, or you vote by mail, which has been a real problem. All of those ballots, called absentee ballots, are collected at the clerk's office, and then they're transported down to the south side of Milwaukee to a central count facility where they are opened up and run through the tabulators. And that is ground zero for the FBI investigation in Milwaukee from the 2020 election, because when you aggregate all the 300 and some wards in the city of Milwaukee and you have a central count facility that is very difficult for observers to watch, that's where the games are played. And I'm being
told Milwaukee's 84% in. Thank you, Thomas. 84% in for Milwaukee now.
Well, if that's the case, if it's 84%, it's running tight, but Crowley will break, in my opinion, Crowley should break ahead in Milwaukee, in the city of Milwaukee. In Milwaukee County, with the liberal suburban ring, I think that's where Hong is picking up her momentum. That and Madison. Keep in mind, we have 13 full-time college campuses in the University of Wisconsin system and 26 private colleges, most of which are pretty liberal.
Yeah.
Those are real hotbeds for gathering student votes. The students are very much behind Hong. They don't, as college students, understand the serious ramifications. They graduate with $200,000 in student loans. They can't get a job, and they don't know why.
Right. Well, hold that thought there, Dan, for 1 second. We are joined right now by Mike Lindell. Mike, we're on the air. We're here with you, and you're with our audience. We've been following your race. I don't know what cities are reporting or what cities you're waiting for. Give us an update on what your guys are seeing and what you think's coming in that will favor your race.
Well, we're here. We actually paid Edison Research, as you know, Brandon. We finally got them. They wouldn't let us do it other years, but Lindell TV, we were able to get them, so we're getting up to date numbers here. Right now, with 19% polling, right now I'm down by about 11,000 votes with 19% reporting. But this is it looks to be like the inner city. Minneapolis, St. Paul, district south of there, and then also a little bit in southern Minnesota. Now, I won a county called Olmsted County, which is traditionally won by Democrats. It was very interesting.
You won that county?
I won that county, and now there's a poller out there that we've been streaming, and he said, this is one of the big polling companies. He said, Mike is doing very good for this early voting that's coming in. Because remember the Kerry Lake race, everybody, in the summer of 22, which we followed very closely that night. And I was on the phone with Kerry at about 11:30 that night, and she was down by a lot, like 50, 60,000 votes, because they had just finished covering all the early voting and mail-in voting. Then the day of voting came in, and by 3 a.m, she had overtaken her opponent, and they of course they shut it down for 4 days, if you remember, Brandon,
yep.
in Maricopa County, and they finally had to declare Kerry Lake the winner. So I'm waiting. It'll probably be about 11 o'clock, I'm guessing, here before they start counting the day of votes here. We do have people watching this, cyber guys. I mean, every person, all hands on deck are watching what's going on with this voting here in Minnesota. Interesting enough, Randy, you might have seen it with the media. I went in to vote today in Minnesota, and I went to get my license. I go, no, you don't need an ID.
We played it. We played the piece from Lindell TV where you went in and no ID to identify you or nothing.
I could not believe it. I really could not believe it. I mean, I could have been anybody. Obviously, they knew me actually, the guy didn't know me. He didn't know how to spell my name. So you think about this, anybody could go in and say they're anybody. I mean, you can't make this up. I think I've forgotten more about election fraud and crimes than people would know. And that anybody would know. I mean, this surprised me. Did I look surprised?
Yeah, you came out and you said you were, obviously this is worse than we even thought it was, is what you said on the steps.
Way worse. And then what I did inside, as we were live streaming, then I couldn't believe they had media inside the building. Inside the building, all this media was.
We saw a cameraman set up behind the lady that was at the desk, and I was a little shocked by that.
Yeah, you can't make this stuff up. And then I stick my ballot in the box, put the ballot in the box. Bye-bye. You don't get a receipt. You get nothing. It's bye-bye. Those machines could be hollowed and fall into a big blank box. And the winner is Lula, fresh out of prison for crimes against Brazil. Remember that?
Yep.
Brandon?
Bolsonaro ran against him. Yes.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what, we will be digging in. If anything nefarious is going on out there, what's his name from Project Veritas guy?
James O'Keefe.
James O'Keefe. One of his guys was here tonight and said, James, they showed me the picture, undercover downtown Minneapolis, and they went into different voting things and they tried all kinds of stuff. Everything worked.
Is that where? Wait a minute. Was that where they were voting and dressed in burqas and the whole 9 yards?
That's correct. Yes,
I saw that.
Yeah. It's going to be a big report tomorrow. He said they've never seen any. One of his guys was in it. He goes, Mike, we've never seen anything like this anywhere in the country. And this was
when you went in to vote, Mike. Did they look up your name and say, "Oh yeah, you're okay. We see who you are. We see your address." No, you didn't show them an ID, so they took your word for it. But they look in a book to see that you are a registered voter.
I don't. He asked me my name, and I had to spell it for him. And then he said, "Where do you live?" And I said, "I'm not going to tell you in front of the media." And he goes, "Oh, you don't have to." That's what he said.
So he didn't look you up in a book or anything.
I don't know. He had a computer in front of him and typing in the name because I said to spell it for him. So I don't know if there was a polling book or anything. I didn't see on that side. I do know this. When I said, he asked me, well, tell us where you live. And I'm going, I'm not telling you where I live. I said, just right there, everyone in the country is going to know where I live then. And his exact words were, oh, you don't have to. That's what he said.
Well, that's, again, I was a little shocked that I saw a cameraman. Maybe, can we rack that up there, guys, and then pause it where you see the cameraman behind the guy at the table with Mike standing out in front of the table? I was shocked they let a camera guy set up, and I was a little shocked they let your Lindell TV reporter go in with you. Normally, all that happens outside.
They come in with me. I've never seen anything like it in my life.
I was shocked. I thought they were going to tell him to get out.
Yeah, it was the most lackadaisical thing I've ever seen in my life. I mean, I've never in my life. And then he had one lady outside. Of course, there had to be one hater. She's outside going, Mike Lindell is lying. He does not live here in this district. I know everybody. I've lived here for 62 years. Brandon, my house is 50 yards from where I voted. That was what was ironic. 50 yards from where I voted.
Wow. Wow.
So, but this lady, she was going, he's breaking campaign violations. He doesn't live here. He doesn't live here. I've been here 60 years. I mean, it was bizarre,
Are you expecting this to go late into the night, your race?
Yeah. It's ridiculous. There's only 19% in. Let me go here. Let me look at the ticker. And, so now there's 25% in, and I'm falling further behind. Now I'm down by 15,000. Now that's kind of scary. That would be. I mean, it's starting to smell a rat.
What if this goes against you? What is your recourse? What is your plan? A recall? Ask for a vote? Audit? What are you going to ask for?
I don't know. We'll have to see where it goes.
I didn't mean to say a recall. I meant to say an audit. Is that what you're going to ask for?
I don't know. You'd have to show something nefarious. Right now, 25% of votes have come. These are all the early voting. Everything is the early voting. Right now, everything's early voting.
Now, we're watching the camera from footage from Lindell TV.
I need you to go tell him. Will you go tell? Hold on 1 second. Will you go tell him to put back on Lindell TV and take this off and put it back on the mainstream and turn it up a little bit? Thanks.
We're watching the clip from Lindell TV. Now, look at that cameraman. Pause right there, guys. Pause it right there, please. Maybe get one that's more focused. But yeah, there we go. I was really shocked. The guy's got a whole tripod set up, watching everybody come in.
And there was 3 cameras, Brandon, in the place. You didn't see the other 2. There was 1 camera behind them, 1 straight in, and 1 to the right, where you vote. I'm looking at it, wow, you can see people's votes. I couldn't even believe it. And then they let Lindell TV come walking right in with me.
I was shocked.
It could have been anybody. They could have been anybody. They didn't know. They did not know they were Lindell TV. They did not know that.
Well, she had a cube that said Lindell TV, and I was really like, wait a minute. What? I was really shocked, but I thought, I don't know. It's Minnesota. Who knows?
And I know Mike Alden says that.
Wow. Yeah, it was shocking. Yeah.
Well, thank you for checking in. We're going to keep following your race here, Mike. And if you hear anything new, feel free to call us back.
Everybody pray for them, right? Because this is what happened in the Kerry Lake race. So it's very similar. These are all the early voting. Yes. So
thank you, Mike. And we'll continue to follow this.
All right, thanks, man.
Thank you, Mike. Mike Lindell checking in from his watch party tonight. What do you make of that, Dan, what he's reporting? And are you shocked they had cameras set up in there and they've got their Lindell TV cube with their name on it? Doesn't that normally stop at the door?
Well, it probably depends on local and state election law. I know in Wisconsin, campaigning has to stop with outside of 100 yards or 100 feet, I should say, from the door of the polling place. But each state governs their elections differently. The idea is not to create excess pressure as people are coming in to vote. They may be undecided, and somebody puts the strong arm to them, and then they vote. So, different states regulate that differently. But I think, the sanctity of the polling place is important because that's really our democracy. That's where our ability as citizens touches our government. We have a representative form of government, and all we get to do is pick somebody to represent us in Washington or the state capitol or Common Council, wherever. And that's why that's an important, almost I don't want to say sacred place, but it should be held in great reverence because that is our democracy in action. And you don't want to make a circus out of the polling place. You want it to be a well-ordered and well-managed process to tabulate the votes so democracy speaks. And that's how we've been battling since the 2020 election. So many people across the country, they're against the systems, the voting, the registration rolls, the machines, all of the digital technology, the poll books, all of that has captured our democracy, where it took it out of the hands of the people and it puts it into the cloud, whatever the cloud means, the compute, the data centers, where all of our elections happen behind a closed circuit. If you're trying to look inside of a machine or a voter roll, you can't do it. The U.S. government sued 26 states saying, we want to see your voter roll. The state said, no, we're not showing them to you. And they're in court. They're in court. The same thing with anybody, including Mike, who's dared challenge the inside of a voting machine. Oh, they'll have the lawyers come out and in flocks of lawyers to stop you from looking into the systems. Well, that again diminishes the humanity of our election process. Voting is a very human thing. You go in, you fill in some circles, somebody adds them all up, you announce who wins. And that's all been taken away by the digital world, from the voter roll to the machine processing to the reporting, even the numbers we're watching tonight. Nobody knows where these numbers are coming from. Somehow, some way, somewhere, these numbers get aggregated statewide. And here we are looking, she's only behind by 1,000. We don't know that. We don't know anything until the official canvass 10 days from now. But yet, this is what we believe. So it's a real problem in the U.S. We have to protect our democracy by protecting the human process of voting. What does it mean to vote? It means coloring in a circle or putting a check on a piece of paper, and then somebody adds it all up transparently. And we don't have that today. We have a completely digital system from beginning to end. They announce a winner, and you better believe it, or you're going to end up in court. So this is a problem. It's something we need to deal with as a culture. And, that goes back to the bifurcation or the splitting up of the United States. I don't advocate that at all. It would be a horrible thing. But I think this goes to the pressure points. 50 states regulate their elections differently. So what's happening in Minnesota tonight is, I'm sure, different from Tennessee. I'm sure it's different from Wisconsin. And the question is that good or bad? And we'll find out. We'll see soon what the results are.
Well, speaking of results, I mean, wowee. They have just refreshed. Look at that. Literally just refreshed. And now we are at 40.4 for Crowley, 40.2 for Hong. I got a clip I want to play for you guys. I want to ask Shahram about the great breakup of America and respond to what Annie Cyrus said, that it will be not my son's generation that will take back America, but it'll be my son's children that will be in the streets like Iran. I want to ask Shahram about that. But first, folks, we talked about what socialists do to major thriving metropolitan cities that are greatly advanced in their architecture, their infrastructure, their museums, their orchestras and playhouses, and the just perfection and advancement. And then socialism tears it down to the ground and turns it into an outdoor toilet. Not kidding, literally stepping over human feces. Look at what Detroit used to look like in the 1960s.
The world's automobile capital, Detroit. Back in 1701, long before this land became a nation, Cadillac planted the colors of France on Detroit's shore. And thus began a rich and inspiring history which has brought Detroit to its finest hour, the today of which we are a part.
And now look at what Detroit is today. If that isn't, Shahram, a great example of what that state and city have become. The folks of the 1960s would never have believed if someone had warned them. If we showed up warning them, and you and I and Annie and Dan and many of our guests here regularly, we have spent, some of us, 36 years warning about these ideologies. And so many people have said, oh, that'll never happen in America. That'll never happen in America. I'm pretty sure if you went to Detroit in the 1960s and were warning about the march of communism and the rise of Islam, they would not believe you. And those that did would say, I could see maybe the communism part, but certainly not the Islamic side. And yet the red-green axis has completely taken over Michigan.
Absolutely. And by the way, the same thing happened in Iran, as Annie mentioned earlier about the Iranian lesson for America. This is the same thing. Look at Iran in the 50s and 60s and mid 70s. It looked like that, the video you just played. And now look at Iran today. And many people who were, in my dad's generation, didn't believe that could ever happen. My dad was one of those voices that was warning about what was coming with this infiltration. And Annie's right. I mean, it was, my generation, we fled Iran, right? So we fled. But in America, you've said this many times, where else do you go? So it probably, I think she's right. It probably will not be, my children's generation. They're going to live under that persecution. Now, if, of course, we have Bible prophecy at stake. So if we're going to be delayed and we're going to go another 50, 60 years, before the Lord's return, then yes, I agree that we can see that it's going to be it's going to be my grandkids that are going to be fighting that battle. And Brandon, look at the suburbs of Detroit, right? You have 3 cities now that have been pretty well conquered. You have Dearborn Heights, and Hamtramck. Hamtramck, which was a Polish community, which was a Polish hub, has now become the first Muslim majority city in America. Dearborn is almost Muslim majority, and Christians are getting pelted with rocks and attacked. And so, who would have believed? Except for we've been warning about this for you said 3+ decades. In our ministry, we've been warning about this for the last 2 decades. And here we are witnessing this this takeover. And it's not enough for them to only infiltrate those areas, because one of the things they're doing earlier when you were talking about kind of the influence of, why would someone like Klobuchar run for governor? Brandon, you and I well saw the influence of Minnesota in somewhere like Sioux Falls, South Dakota, where they are now infiltrating South Dakota. Sioux Falls is the hub of the Minnesota movement. They sent Taniza Islam to be basically a care operative in Sioux Falls. We experienced that with the threats against that conference. And Taniza Islam is still there, has run for mayor multiple times. They are gaining ground in Sioux Falls. So it's not enough that they just take over these blue or purple states. They're infiltrating. How about the influence of Minnesota on Wisconsin? So this is long-term strategy that they have. I think they're going back to the states because I think they are, as Trevor said it, as Dan said it, I think they are planning, they are pushing for the divorce and the collapse of this nation, which means the power goes back to the states. And that's, I think, part of their strategy.
And now President Trump tonight was asked about John Thune and the SAVE Act, because, guys, we just saw what happened with Mike Lindell. It's on video, for Pete's sake. He just walks in, hey, I'm here to vote. We didn't see him pull out any ID or ID check. We need the Save America Act. Here's what President Trump has said tonight on the tarmac with Marine One behind him.
I don't worry about anything, to be honest. Whatever it is, my attitude, whatever.
All right, well, that was about the threat. So they had that labeled wrong, and yet that was coming right from the White House feed tonight. But we'll see what I can find about, and of course, that was someone also being maybe sarcastic, so I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, he was being asked tonight about the threats against himself, and he was saying the threats against me are not unconsequential. Well, in fact, let's see what he says, because that'll bring up a great point with Annie, because they are going after, Iran is making great threats against the whole Trump family, including billboards in the square of their coffins. Listen to this.
No, not surprised. I have a lot of threats. I have a lot of threats that you don't know about. Any consequential president has a lot of threats. Non-consequential presidents don't get threatened. And I think that I'm maybe the most consequential president. There's nobody who's done more than me in a period of almost 6 years. There's nobody. All
right. So he has a lot of threats against him, Annie. I want to ask you guys, particularly Dan, about the Save America Act. But real quick, Annie, he's taking a position of whatever it is. There's nothing I can do about it. Reportedly, he told someone, we all have to go sometime. Your thoughts on all this and the threats against the president, particularly from Iran?
I was about to say, I think he has finally reached that point because he's being told the truth about the Mokhtar unit and all the threats. So I guess he has reached a point of it is what it is. If they get me, they get me. And if they don't, they don't. Because I agree with what he said. Yes, all presidents do have threats against them, but he definitely has upped the game in last 2 years with IRGC.
Dan, we need this. We're getting ready to wrap here. It's getting late. We're all tired. But is this, we need this Save America Act. We just saw what happened with Mike Lindell on camera. But yet we can't get John Thune to do his job and stop this filibuster, cancel the filibuster.
I think Republican leadership in the Senate, with the exception of Senator Ron Johnson from Wisconsin, who's a great guy, has been disastrous. And I think that the Republican illusion is being peeled back. People are beginning to understand. And that goes back to my comment about 1913, when we took the power of the Senate away from the states. There's no reason that we couldn't have each governor be in the Senate. What do you need two people elected, just like we're electing Hong? It's time to revisualize what we're doing as a republic, because the republic's going broke. Now, I want to point out that Francisca Hong in Wisconsin's down by about 1,000 votes right now. if you look at Dane County, which is the liberal Madison, Dane County, University of Wisconsin, 45,000 students plus faculty. It's a place that one former Republican governor called a 28 square miles surrounded by reality. And he wasn't far. But Francisco Hong is up by 10,000 votes over David Crowley in Dane County. In Milwaukee County, Racine County, all the other liberal counties, Crowley is ahead because they're more traditional Democrats. But what we're seeing is the amazing ability of using the university systems to effectively move the needle. And that's what, Dane County was a hotbed in the 1960s radicalism. They blew up Sterling Hall in 1970. They killed a guy. In the 1930s, it was a hotbed of communism back in the 1930s. So what we're seeing is the organization, the Social Democrats, are using the universities once again as leverage. And what this data is, you're talking, I'm looking, but she's ahead 10,000 votes in Madison over David Crowley, and there's the race right there. So once again, we're looking at a fringe of our population, highly concentrated in college students who come in from out of state and they vote here and then they leave, is dictating the Democratic primary. And we fight this in the general elections all the time. Because if you can ramp up the 13 college campuses with all sorts of 18 and 19-year-old kids who believe social democracy, you're going to win. And that's why it's so dangerous. If Hong does win the nomination tonight, there may not be a way to stop her ascendancy to the government, to the governor's mansion. Out of 28 statewide elections, 26 of them have been lost by the Republicans. So Republicans do not control statewide elections in the state because of the power of the Social Democrats on the universities. So whoever wins tonight, there's a pretty good chance of being our next governor. It's a problem. But this demonstrates, again, that when you have an insurgency and you're really focused on gaining power, whether it's the Islamic crowd, the Social Democrats, or whoever it is, using a ground game and a strategy is critical to success. So this is where we are. And I think that's a real tell. If Hong wins tonight, it's Madison, Wisconsin that put her over the top. Because if you look at the Milwaukee numbers, Hong is down by 2,000 votes, but there's still 40 or 84% in. So you're still looking at about 16% of the vote. And that's why you have to watch the central count in the city of Milwaukee, because that moves the needle. They don't report their results until all the wards are counted. That's why we had the great F curve in 2020 and said, they dumped all these votes at 2 o'clock in the morning. Well, that's how it works. You add them all up, you wait till 2 o'clock in the morning, you plug it in, and wham, you have a winner. And I think because it's the city of Milwaukee and Crowley is very popular in Milwaukee, that little magic trick may happen again, and we'll be watching. We've got a lot of people down at Central Count tonight watching the process.
So you're saying you would not be shocked if we wake up in the morning, because I'm not going to stay here till 2 a.m. But if we wake up in the morning and find that Crowley won from that Central Count coming out of Milwaukee, you would not be shocked?
I would not be shocked, and we should talk about that because it's the same allegation Hillary Clinton made in 2016. Jill Stein and Hillary Clinton. Milwaukee put Trump over the top in 2016. 4 years later, they put Joe Biden over the top over Trump.
And what are people trying to imply here? That there's funny business going on there?
Oh, they just hold back the votes until you figure out who won and you report them. But Milwaukee is 85, 90% Democrat. And what you've got is the county of Milwaukee's executive. The county executive is an elected position in Wisconsin. And he runs the largest county in the state. And like I said, about 40% of Wisconsinites live in that county. And they like their guy. I mean, he's been a popular county executive. So I'm not so sure that when Central Count Milwaukee comes in tonight that it won't put him over the top. Now, whether there's shenanigans, who is to say? I can't comment. I have a lawsuit pending against those folks. I'll leave it at that. But I think we will see what happens.
Well, look, it's 40.2% right now to 40.1%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's. I was
going to say, Brandon, that also if you look at Dan LaCrosse as well. That's breaking for Hong. And also to Dan's point, Brandon, in races like this, if you look at the outstanding votes that are left, the Republican voter turnout, because you have a lot more independents, right? That same thing happened in Tennessee. We have about 1.4, 1.5 million registered Republicans, over 2.1 million registered independents. And when you have these open primaries, the who knows who's voting for who. But right now you have 485 thousand on the Democrat side, plus another 183,000 left. So they have far more votes in the Democrat voter turnout than the Republicans do. So to Dan's point, whoever wins that Democrat primary more than likely is going to win the general election. And that's it's just shocking. To me, it's still shocking that someone like Francesca Hong, and as Trevor said earlier, he said it really well. This is the machine. This is not the individual. This is the machine that is either running the Muslim candidates or is running the socialist, Marxist, communist candidates. This machine is now what has happened. And the Republicans don't have that machine. The Republicans just don't have, at least at the grassroots level, don't have that machine. And this is why, again, I go back to what I said at the beginning of the night tonight. This is a generational shift, I think. And to your question earlier about national divorce, here's my perspective on that, Brandon. I'm looking at this going, look, if there is not a national divorce, not that, we want that, but if there's not a national divorce, that means that we've succumbed to them. Think about that, right? That means that the only way to go through this, because either we defeat them or they defeat us. So if there is not a national divorce, that means that your sons and my sons, my children, your children, have succumbed to this, to Annie's point, and are now living under this norm until their kids, if we get that long before the Lord comes back, will rise up. Because in Iran, the shocking thing for a lot of people in Iran, or for people who are watching Iran, are like these young people that are 16, 17, 18, 20, 22 years old. They're sitting there. They know their history. They're chanting the name of the Shah, the son of the Shah, Javeed Shah, long live the Shah. They weren't alive back when the overthrow happened, when the coup happened. How do they know this? They know this because they've learned the lesson of their parents who lived under it. And now they're saying, no, we'd rather die than live under the system. So unfortunately, we have a generation that's going to succumb to this if we don't heed this warning. And we haven't even talked about, Trevor briefly mentioned it. This goes back to the churches. This goes back to the spiritual condition of our nation. And I'll leave it at that.
All right, let's get ready for closing comments. Because I'm not staying to 2 a.m. to see if Hong wins or loses, or Crowley wins or loses. But closing comment from you tonight, Annie.
I would say we gotta keep doing what we're doing, and I agree. Let's not stay up, because I think every race is going to go for them. They have too many. I mean, odds are definitely against us, but this doesn't mean necessarily we have lost the midterm. We don't have much time, but if this wakes people up, we might stand a chance for midterm. I'm not saying all the Republicans are good candidates, but unfortunately, we sometimes, for last 3 decades, we have picked between lesser evil. So we might still win the midterm with the lesser evil.
Mike Lindell right now is at 31.6%, while this is coming to AP. AP is reporting. Lisa DeMuth is coming in at 45.3% to Mike's 31.6%. So the gap's getting a little wider than when we last talked to Mike. So I think we kind of know where that one's headed, sadly. All right, let's go to a closing comment from you, Dan, please.
Well, we shall see the momentum in the Midwest of the Social Democrats. I'm cautiously optimistic that David Crowley will pull this out. But it begs the bigger question: where do the voters go that supported Hong? Do they pivot to David Crowley, still a minority, still a Democrat, and still a traditional big spending Democrat? Or do they go to a more conservative Republican? Certainly not a mega Republican on the other side, Tom Tiffany, but a solid guy. He's a congressman. He's a U.S. congressman. We shall see how it turns out. But I think from our perspective, we watch the process, and we've been challenging the process since, 2016, when Hillary and Jill Stein were challenging it. And we challenge it today because we don't like the idea of electronic systems. Electronic voter rolls mandated by HAVA. We don't like electronic machines doing our counting. And that is eternal vigilance. And we are very vigilant about our democracy. So we'll see who wins the political side. And that's not for us to decide. There's an election, there's a winner, and there's a loser. And the political parties are really in charge of campaigning. If you've got a bad candidate and a lousy ground game, you lose. That's normal. That's normal democracy. Our goal is to make sure that the playing field is level, that the machines and the voter roll and all of the mechanics around the elections are neutral and they're not biased. And that's really what we watch. That's why we're watching this race so closely, to make sure that these elections are conducted fairly and transparently in a way that we expect from our government.
And we do have breaking news. Decision Desk HQ has now called Minnesota governor primary Republican winner Lisa DeMuth against Mike Lindell.
It's sad to see.
So there you go. I think Milwaukee data center, what's going to go on there, we'll decide it as Dan's been saying, and that's not going to happen until
central count.
Central count.
But yet, Dan, did you see that, Dan? The vote went down. Are you looking at that? The Milwaukee vote went from 84% down to 74.9%.
Yeah. How does that happen? How can that happen in a digital world? Does your credit card statement balance ever go down? Mine certainly doesn't. You'd sure love to open up your account and see you've lost 14 points. But yet with our democracy, we're looking at numbers that just simply don't make sense. And that's where the tinfoil hats come out. Just because of what you notice now, by tomorrow morning, the conspiracy theories will be howling, and rightly they should. That's what observing democracy looks like. But yeah, this is our democracy in the era of digital elections.
And yet on social media, we have Wisconsin Democrat governor primary odds. Francisca Hong 61%, David Crowley 39%. Coming from this one group, I don't know where they're getting their numbers from. I'm just looking at what's online. Well, why would they be holding out so much hope for her still?
Well, even if this is a very tight race statewide, so even if she squeaks ahead, the question is, where do the Crowley voters go? I would submit that the Crowley voters will break for Tiffany by a large margin. If it's the Hong voters, they're not going to break for Tiffany. They're going to take the second best, and that's going to be David Crowley, and we'll end up with a governor in Wisconsin who's David Crowley. But if Hong wins, I think the Crowley crowd is going to go to Tiffany or stay home. And I don't think they'll stay home because Tiffany's kind of I don't want to say middle of the road, but he's not a well-known conservative. He's a very decent gentleman. I've met him a number of times. He's a congressman. He's a small business owner. He's from up north, in the land of recreation. He's just a good guy. And he's sort of an echo of the famous governor of Wisconsin, Tommy Thompson, who I worked for 10 years, full disclosure, in his cabinet. But he was beloved by the people. I mean, Tommy's the kind of guy to walk into a local tavern on Friday night and order a fish fry, and people just loved it. Well, Tiffany has that same personal magic. So I think if Hong is the nominee, then the Crowley crowd is going to, at least some of them, pivot toward Tiffany. We'll see. This is all speculation, and I don't give investment advice, and I probably shouldn't give political advice either. But that's what I see it.
Well, again, NBC News, NBCnews.com is reporting Crowley at 40.2% and Hong at 40%. That's NBCnews.com. Did everybody get a closing comment in here? Did I leave anybody out on the closing comment? Who? Shahram, did you want to do a closing comment?
I mean, just the fact, I'll stick with what I said at the beginning of the night. I think that we are in the midst of a tectonic shift. I don't see this as a pendulum swing, although to Annie's point, we will see what happens in the midterms. Does this, we keep saying, what will bring voter turnout from Christians, from conservatives, when we see such low voter turnout on our side, particularly within, quote, churches. And I said that at the beginning of the night, that one of the problems in Minnesota is the fact that you have all these historical Christian communities, but they don't vote. They're fundamentally against it. So we're watching that. But I honestly, just my gut, my instinct is telling me, my discernment is telling me that we're in a shift culturally, and this is not one that we're going to be recovering from anytime soon, if we recover from it. So, I wonder what the days of America are left in regards to our republic, and we need to win the hearts back of this next generation.
And isn't that what we're doing here? A worldview, or trying to do a worldview weekend for all the years we've held 300 worldview weekend events around the country, broadcasting, radio, TV. I mean, that's what we're trying to do, is show people your worldview matters. Ideas have consequences. The six dominant worldviews that rule the world, of which two of them happen to be Islam and Marxism, and the third, of course, I would mention to be Christianity. I mean, the others is cosmic humanism and postmodernism. But I mean, these worldviews are. This is where it's at. It's a worldview war, because your worldview is the foundation of your values. The values are the foundation of your conduct.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100%. And we're clearly losing that battle. I think I said on my show yesterday this morning, that this idea of, we just want to throw this notion, we're seeing this shift in the young people, the culture. Yeah, there is a percentage that were impacted by the likes of Charlie Kirk, but by that movement. But we're still, I think, generationally losing the battle, because we haven't brought the biblical worldview into the culture, into this next generation, which is part of discipleship. I mean, that's part of what we're supposed to be doing, is training our children up in the ways they should go and teaching them that their worldview does matter to their everyday life. And that disconnect is in the church. That disconnect is in the place of faith as far as the Christian community in America. Mm-hmm. And we're going to wake up soon. They're going to wake up soon and find out what it's like to be under that type of pressure and persecution here coming up very soon, because that's where this ends. That's where this ends.
And for the last few minutes, I've been watching, and the page has refreshed it by 3 times. And NBCnews.com is reporting that they're tied 40.1% to 40.1%. So there you go.
Well, I can say this. I'm looking at, I don't know what here tonight, but I see that Madison, Dane County, is reported to be at about 97% reported, and Milwaukee is 75% reported.
Yeah.
And what that tells me is whatever happened in Dane County is pretty much counted. And once again, the city of Milwaukee comes in very late. And stay tuned. I would be stunned if Crowley doesn't go ahead, because when you think about it, the city of Milwaukee itself is where our highest concentration of African-American citizens live. And that's a very active community. They're politically very active since the 1960s. Same thing with the Hispanic community, which is ever increasing on the south side of Milwaukee. But they have different interests. And I think when you start, especially from the Spanish community, with very, very much involved in the construction industry here, and you talk about taxing 17%, that catches their ear, because that's not a number they'd like to pay. They didn't move to Wisconsin to go broke. So let's see what happens. But there's always the delta between Dane County reports and they're done, and then the city of Milwaukee comes in later, and the same allegations in 2016 and 2020 perhaps will happen again. We shall see. But,
and more outlets are calling the race for Lisa DeMuth against Mike Lindell. So there you go. We will have to wait, I guess, till tomorrow to find out what NBCnews.com and other groups report when it comes to Crowley and to
Well, traditionally, Milwaukee Central count, for some reason, they start at 7 o'clock in the morning, and it takes them till 2 o'clock the next morning to count up the ballots. Nobody knows why. We speculate. Nobody knows why, but let's see what happens. It's an amazing machine in Milwaukee.
And we do know that Dan is on every day here at Worldview Tube at 11:30 Central.
Right.
11:30 Central, Monday through Friday.
Financial report. I only talk about money and finances, the economy, and the $40 trillion in national debt and the $2.5 trillion in annual deficit. I don't get into politics unless I have to.
Yeah, well, I don't blame you, but yeah, sometimes we have to, right?
It's a Christian ministry. We talk about economics and finance from the perspective of the gospel.
Yep.
And that's an important thing from my perspective.
It is from the Bible's perspective. So you're right on target.
God's
Dan,
right next to me.
Every day, 11:30 Central, Monday through Friday, right here at Worldview Tube. Annie is on every day, back after working on several books. She's back at 3 p.m. Central each and every day, right, Annie?
Yes, 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern.
Well, we're going to have a lot to talk about. And Shahram, we carry him on the weekends. And then he fills in for me along with Annie sometimes. Annie's website is liveuptofreedom.com, liveuptofreedom.substack.com, liveuptofreedom.com, liveuptofreedom.substack.com. Her new book, Architecture of Jihad, can be found at liveuptofreedom.com. Shahram is tilministry.com, tilministry.com. By the way, Shahram and Annie will be two of the keynote speakers. I don't know if you can show the whole board. Dan will get up and greet the crowd, I hope, there in Milwaukee at the Waukesha Expo Center again, as he did a year ago last April. As we bring our national conference Friday night and Saturday, October 23rd and 24th, to the Waukesha Expo Center just outside of Milwaukee. There they are, Shahram Hadian, Annie Cyrus, myself, Alex Newman, Dr. Erwin Lutzer, Andy Woods, and Patrick Wood. It is free. We've never made our national conference free because I got to pay every one of those people's airfare, their hotel, car rental, give them a reasonable honorarium, and then rent the building for 2 days, which is over $10,000. And then the sound company, which will be probably around $7,000 for the sound company that comes in and does all the sound and lighting. You can see how that would add up real fast. And so we've always had to charge. But this year we've decided to step out in faith, counting on you through our foundation and a free will offering we'll take at the event. All we want to do is break even. That's it. So you can get a free ticket, but you must have a seat. Over 800 seats are already spoken for, but you can pick up a free seat by going to worldviewtube.com/events. Bring your checkbook, bring cash. We'll be taking offerings to help offset those costs. Worldviewtube.com/events. We break even, and we'll do it again next year for free. If we don't, we're back to charging. Worldviewtube.com/events. If you're a Vault member, you will be able to stream it. If you are a Vault member, worldviewtube.com/vault. If you'd like to become a member, worldviewtube.com/vault. And you get 36 years of radio shows, TV shows, ebooks, audiobooks, and our brand new Worldviewpedia Bible Worldview software. Ask our research assistant a question. Just type it into the box and watch what happens. And if you're a Vault member, you can do that. Just go to worldviewtube.com, worldview. Let me do that real quick. Worldviewtube.com. Take a look at this page here. And there we are right there. See us? And then scroll down. You see where it says, well, you don't have to scroll down. See where it says Worldviewpedia Research Assistant? There it is. Hello, I'm your Worldview Tube Biblical Worldview Research Assistant. How can I help you today? I don't know. Let's see. Who is Annie Cyrus? You know what? Should we ask that, Annie? Who is Annie Cyrus?
Please do.
I've never done this before. Who is Annie Cyrus? You've reached your question limit. Oh, I'm not logged in? Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness.
That is the best answer.
I've paid a fortune for this, and I've reached my question limit? Apparently,
because that one question is a whole book of answers.
It is a whole book. I need to log in. Let me see if I can log in and try that again. I think I'm logged in now. Let's try it again. Oh, that's embarrassing.
AI is telling you don't go there.
I know, right? Who is Annie Cyrus? Was that AI or the Holy Spirit? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, who is Annie Cyrus? Okay, here we go. If a picture pops up at a picture of her on a mailbox on a wall at the post office, look out. It's thinking. It must have a lot of information on you. Where we go. Born in 1983, she grew up under Sharia following the Islamic Revolution. Look at that. It's got so much. She rejected Islam at age 9. She endured severe abuse and was sold as a child bride for $50 at age 13. She escaped Iran at the age of 15. She sought asylum in Turkey through the United Nations, was granted entry in the United States in 2002, became a naturalized citizen. She escaped Islam and found salvation in Jesus Christ, host of Live Up to Freedom and founder of LiveUpToFreedom.com, national director of the American Truth Project, producer of the Glazov Gang, hosted by Dr. Jamie Glazov, has worked with David Horowitz Freedom Center, featured on platforms like Jihad Watch, Breitbart, American Thinker. Since 2011, she's been prominent human rights activist, focusing on women's rights and exposing the dangers of Islam. Learn more about her at Worldview Tube, and then here are the citations of where it came from. What do you think, Annie?
That was very impressive. Very impressive.
And I have never done that on the air, by the way.
Why do you think I was holding my breath?
Yeah, well, I was too. I thought that's a little tricky to try, but should we ask who is Dan Eastman? Or do you think
let's just go to a commercial. We don't need to do.
Let's wrap up the night. Let's wrap up, guys. It's really late. It's 11 p.m.
Oh, gosh. Here we go. It's thinking. It may not have enough power. Dan's bio is so long, right?
We need a new data center. We need a new data center to run me.
He is a professional. He's professor of economics. He's a licensed attorney. He's considered an expert on finance, economics, and election integrity. He is a TV host here on Worldview Tube, hosting Eastman Financial Report. He airs Monday through Friday, 11:30 a.m. to noon. He's a regular guest and contributor on Brand House Live. He's been actively fighting election integrity issues since the night after the 2020 election, although you may have been doing before that. I don't know. He's described as one of the most knowledgeable people on the topic of election and security and voting machine vulnerabilities. That's pretty good.
Smart AI you got there.
Wait, how come, Brandon, how come your AI does not talk about my show on your network and me being regularly on yours? So that's it. I don't like your AI.
I will have to plug something in for that. I will do that. Are you happy with what happened, Dan? Are you happy with that answer?
It's time to break for a commercial, Brandon.
You're not happy with that answer?
It's fine. It's fine. We are all transparent in a very secretive world, aren't we?
Oh my!
But I want to know why Shahram is starting to turn red.
The systems are all behind the curtains.
Well, I'll tell you where all the answers came from. They came from your own show, The Perfect Storm Hitting America. I mean, this is where it all came from. So we must have said it somewhere on the air.
But you're using my high school graduation photo, but that's great. I appreciate it.
Oh, is that what that was down there? Let me go down there.
Good. It's good.
Oh, yeah. There we go. Yeah, there it is. Yep. All right, you guys are all good sports. Shahram, we'll ask the Worldview Tube or Worldviewpedia research assistant about you one night.
You got it.
All right.
You can breathe now, Shahram.
Between now and then to do something important.
He's gonna run over to his membership and ask real quick just to see what's there. And then he's gonna text me and say, "Can you please
add this, embellish.
Here's the truth, though. All of this information is only coming off articles, radio shows, TV shows that we've done with each other. So that's the only place he can pull it from. So if it's there, it's because we have said it or written it. That's all I can say.
Exactly.
It is all quarantined. It is not tied to anybody else's information. It's only what we have. So if you don't like what it says, that means we have to go in. I actually saw something come up the other day, and I said, we don't want to say that. Who said that? And my IT guy said, the link's right there. Look at the citation. And I'm like, he's not with us anymore, and we don't believe that. And I said, what do I do? He said, delete the program. So I went in there and I deleted that show. So we monitor this because some people are pushing Calvinism and other stuff we don't push. So yes, if we've said it, it's there. And if we don't agree with it, it's because someone has gotten through. So we're constantly honing this. But overall, we saw tonight, it's accurate. One of the best people on election integrity, professor and attorney Dan Eastman, a fighter for freedom and human rights, Annie Cyrus, and Shahram Hadian. I can tell you about him. A great all-around guy, father of many children, and a freedom fighter and a pastor as well. And all great friends, and all of them in Milwaukee. I don't know. Do we want all of the people that hate us knowing you're all going to be in Milwaukee live in person?
Yes, please. Please.
We'll have security. Don't worry. That's another expense, but we will have security. They will all be with us live in person. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Good sports, all. Thank you. Can we go to the Dolly Cam, as we call it a night tonight? Dolly is on her My Pillow pet bed. There she is looking at me. Hello, baby. Are you ready to call it a night? I bet you have to go potty. You go outside, go potty? Do you need to go potty? You already ate, but do you need to go potty? You're like, Dad, don't talk about that on television. That's private. But you've been a very good girl, very good studio dog tonight. You only come. Oh, you are going to come over and say hi. Well, come on over. You saw my plate that's still there from where I got fed during commercial breaks, or while people were talking, I should say. There we go. Another great show. If you appreciate what we're doing, would you please go to Worldview? I meant to do that, guys. Go to worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Check out all these great products. Dolly gets Gatatana, half a scoop every day on her food. Every morning, I take a full scoop, as you know. Bella Grace, Numi, Gatatana, Squish for Life. That's got glutathione in it. Water filters. We sell a ton of those. Worldview Worldview Talk. Get your solar generators, satellite phones, the bulletproof backpack for kids of all ages. Get one for yourself. We have one. MelissaProtein.com. I already had 5 of those today. I take 5 or 6 a day. Cuts down my appetite, burns fat, and helps to keep muscle mass so I don't shrink away. Because I'm on a very strict diet now. Maybe I can talk about that another night. I am 100% off all carbs as of 3 days ago. I'll talk about that with Dr. Bashima. Blood work came in, and I got it. I'm off all carbs. I am no longer putting any creamer even in my coffee. It has been a very, very tough 4 days, but I'm trying to get used to it. But there you go. I am doing the Melissa Protein for sure every day, along with the Bella Grace, the Numi, and the Gatatana. All right. Roll the music. Let's call it a night. There you go, folks. And this is just a taste of what's coming. Just a matter of 3 months away, 12 weeks. Can you believe it, Thomas? 12 weeks from now, we'll be sitting here with Garland Favorito in studio. And who else did I book to come in studio? One other person. Who was it? Garland Favorito and one other guy I booked to come in on studio. Yeah, that's going to help me. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We've already got somebody else booked to come in studio. So it'll be a great night. Oh, Dr. Doug Frank. That's who it is. Dr. Doug Frank. There you go. All right. Hey, you appreciate what we're doing? Don't forget about our foundation, worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. Back to our normal program schedule tomorrow. Worldview Report, Brandon House Live, all the whole 9 yards. May God save America. Take care. Good evening, guys. Welcome to the broadcast. Glad you're with us. It is Friday night, August 7th, 2026. I pre-recorded this interview I'm about to do right now with Michael Weiner to play now. As you know, many of you, I'm taking off a little bit for a couple reasons. One, tomorrow, August 8th, is Melissa's birthday, so I'm spending some time with Melissa, my daughter, and my granddaughter. I'm also working on this, Volume 3 of the Book of Revelation. Volume 1 and 2 have already gone to the printer. They're gone. I'm now reading through for the last time Volume 3, making any final changes and additions to my 3-volume set on the Book of Revelation. So I'm working on that. And then I'm working on a couple other books I have coming out this fall. And I'll be back with my normal broadcast schedule on Wednesday, Lord willing, of this next week. So again, if you're interested in the Revelation commentary set, remember worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. However, I wanted to get on here and record this special interview for you tonight before we go to whatever Logan plans after this, because I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned about where this